the Pretend Podcast.
There we go. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the Pretend Podcast. I'm Gavin, joined by
Craig.
As always, we're here to break the hard-hitting issues to you fine listeners. And boy, do we have a show for you. Thanks for joining us again, or for the first time, welcome. And we've got one of our many ideas we tossed around fairly recently when we were in the sun, basking in the sand and the warmth of the sunshine over the summer.
Blue angels overhead.
We said, superhero episode. We should do this.
The kids love them.
Kids love them. We love them. We could spend easily a whole day doing it. And kept pushing that day back. And then it didn't quite happen. So we figured now is the day.
All the alcohol abuse got in the way.
Yeah, which never stops a true superhero.
No.
Superheroes can hold their liquor.
That's right. It never stopped AntMan until it did.
Oh, did he have an official problem?
He did.
Yeah,
it was a big deal.
Oh, jeez. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, he's on the wagon these days.
Oh. Because they don't fully address that in the films, do they?
Nah, they kind of hint at it, but they don't really.
I mean, just by it being Robert Downey Jr.,
you know, he knows about it.
Kind of take that, So there's a lot of the types of questions we're going to be asking here, and
the hard-hitting news.
Yeah, and as you can tell right out of the gate here, Craig will be our panel expert on this topic.
I am a knowledgeable dork.
I enjoyed a few solid years, as we've talked about in past episodes, of comic collecting. The artwork always drew me in. Stories, occasionally. But I had a few boxes and loved them, but it was a pretty short window. I never really stuck with it too much. I always just moved on to movies or music
cool
or something.
Stuff like having sex with
Little
ladies
League and Little League footballs. None of those actually until I was 35, I figured maybe a little superhero small talk would be good for everybody. So
it's a popular topic these days.
And if you caught our first episode, one of your first loves you cited as the Avengers, then,
yes.
Right? Was that like the first comic you got into, or the first one that really just kind of won you over?
The first comics I ever read, and we may have discussed this before. The first comics I ever read were just a bookcase full of comic books left over from my dad and his brothers at my granny's house, and they were just an assortment, mostly war comic books. The first Sergeant Rock and Weird War and the Haunted Tank, a lot of DC stuff. Drawn by Joe Kubert and those guys. Really cool stuff. But I didn't really get into them at the time. It was a lot later. One of the first comic books superhero comics I really distinctly remember reading, even though it wasn't what really got me, the one that really got me into comics, was actually some Iron Man comic books from the time when he was an alcoholic. I think there was like a run called like In the Bottle.
Drunk
or something.
In the
He's like all ashen and gray and beardy, and he's wearing a suit. And
is that why there is a gray Iron Man too? That's him when he's drunk.
He's just drunk, he doesn't have enough energy.
Awesome.
But and that's one of the first ones I remember reading distinctly right after we moved to North Carolina, maybe when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But the Avengers was the thing that really sucked me in and made me love comics. And that was a couple years after that.
Huh, that's cool. And I guess just on the topic of like general superheroes, did you like have any visual, like, I don't know if there were really many when we were kids, like definitely not movies so much, but the concept of superheroes, and did you get them from the comics initially, or was it like something you're just kind of aware of the idea of a superhero and that's why you like the comics? You know?
I was aware of the idea of superheroes beforehand, just from like cartoons and stuff. There was, I don't know what it was really called. It's a Japanese cartoon. When I was a kid, it was run in the States, dubbed as G-Force, and I think it might actually be called Battle of the Planets or something like that. But they wore sort of superhero, anime-style superhero costumes. They fought a bad guy who kind of looked like a jackal. But I remember being very confused as a kid because he also wore makeup. I was pretty sure he was a dude. And, in 1976 or 77, I was just like, I didn't get what he was supposed to be or what his deal was, or or anything. But I remember,
and he played bass for Bowie.
Yeah.
Wow, this guy does everything.
He was sort of like a trans villain, I guess, but nobody knew what that term meant at the time.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't when I was like 3 or 4. Just some stuff like that, and then there'd be, you know, sort of fringe superhero properties on, like, there was a show called Tarzan and the Super 7. If you can catch episodes of that on YouTube, it's great because it's terrible.
Yeah.
Batman and the Super Friends. I remember watching Super Friends. That was like my first real exposure to superheroes.
What about a big one for us was Electric Company, and then they would do the SpiderMan.
And Spider-Man. Morgan Freeman was on the Electric Company.
Really?
He was. He wasn't Spider-Man.
Yeah, I was like, what? He was Spider-Man?
Do you remember that when Spider-Man would shoot a web, someone from off camera would just throw it onto whoever?
Yeah, I remember even as a kid being like, this is pretty lame, but it was like the only like live action Spider-Man.
There were a couple of live action Captain America movies with the actor named something like Reb Brown as Captain America, and like they always did at the time, they didn't have really the technology. They didn't have sort of even the costuming technology. Certainly not, you know, sort of any sort of computer animated graphic, you know, sort of special effects. They didn't have budgets at TV at the time, so it always was like this dumbed down, sort of like a little bit embarrassed of the source material, covering up it's, you know, what we can't do, stuff. So like, and the Reb Brown Captain America movies, he sort of wears Captain America's costume, but not really. He's got like a plexiglass shield. He wears a motorcycle helmet instead of the Captain America costume, and he rides on a motorbike.
I don't think I ever properly saw those, but I've seen
He's
clips.
more like Stuntman America or something. And I remember liking those. I like the Hulk the Hulk show.
I was gonna say that was another big one as a kid because I was like, you just kind of flip around in the middle of the day. I'm trying I should have jotted down the running years of that show. It must have been like
it was like 70s. Mid to late 70s, maybe late 70s and early 80s, probably.
Yeah, by the time I saw it, was probably definitely syndication.
Yeah, it was in syndication for a long time.
But I remember being terrified of that. Like, even though I knew, like, somehow the concept of the Hulk and just it being cool and stuff, but like, as soon as you just see that green bastard flare on that, which was cool because really that should be the response of seeing him. You know, like even the complaints of the newer stuff where they just CG him and shit, you know, he's definitely gotten better, but like those first few attempts were
not so awesome.
It's like Shrek bouncing around everywhere. Like, this has nothing. This is ridiculous. It's like I would rather just see some crazy bodybuilder painted green,
swollen green tick.
He just looked insane in that show. I was like, man, that's
Wonder Woman TV show was awesome. I really liked the Wonder Woman TV show. There was a Sid and Marty Croft, I think their names were brothers, I believe.
Yeah,
they did a lot of puppetry. And Sigmund Seamoss stuff. They did some shorts that were live action called Electra Woman and Dyna Girl. Ooh. Those were on rerun probably on like the USA channel, Cartoon Express or something when I was a little bit older, still a kid.
So you think all this was this kind of around while you were first starting to get in the comics?
Yeah, it was just like this sort of stew of stuff. But because it was the time it was always either really juvenile or very poorly done. Like they just didn't have the budget, didn't have the technology. Yeah. You know, George Lucas was just pushing boundaries into sort of, you know, really creative special effects and stuff like that, and that was never going to happen on TV. Yeah. And you know, it just wasn't something they could really do and do well. So it was always this mix of like being unsatisfying, but sort of like tantalizing this idea. And I didn't, my dad didn't read comics, or mom, and my older brother didn't really. So it wasn't until I just kind of stumbled upon them somehow that I finally kind of got that thing that really was its fullest expression, where your imagination can just fill in all the blanks instead of seeing them filled in very poorly for you on a small screen. And I still like, you know, like Linda Carter was great as Wonder Woman. She's believable as Wonder Woman. And like the Superman movie came out in 81, and Christopher Reeves was, you know, very, very charming and believable and likable in that role, even though there's a lot of silly stuff in there. And Superman is, you know, both the first superhero and one of the most basic. Like, there's nothing, they didn't have to make like really crazy stuff happened. They just had to make it look like he lifted some heavy stuff and that he could fly, and you're good.
He was like the hardest one to grapple on any level, I think, because he's like so generic, but at the same time, like the epitome of superhero.
Yeah.
He's everything, but at the same time, he's Superman.
And he just gets stronger and stronger and stronger in the comic books, and there's just, it's really hard. One of the things that makes Batman, I think, so successful, he's sort of the flip side of that same early superhero coin, like non-superhero. Mm-hmm. But he has like a really good sort of set of bad guys to face. Yeah. They're great. SpiderMan has really good bad guys. And Superman, not so much. Like, he fought a lot of mobsters and gangsters and wife beaters and stuff, and cheaters and stuff like that in the early comics. And then they, kind of stumbled upon Lex Luthor type guys and super scientists and things like that. But other than Lex Luthor, he kind of has a bunch of losers. Like, it's hard to...
Yeah, because nobody really stands a chance anyway.
Yeah.
He's a little too powerful.
Yeah, like Superman 2 is good, and he faces other Kryptonians in it.
Yeah.
Like, they manufacture a way to get some other Kryptonians into the movie so that he's evenly matched. And,
I wonder too, because Superman goes back so far, that's why I was kind of wondering, the generational thing, because, clearly superhero stuff, because of the movies doing well and stuff, are blowing up again, so I think it's pretty prominent now, and everyone, kids, 50% of every Halloween costume this year is probably going to be a superhero. And,
yes.
I just wonder if there's something to the waves of what the appeal is of why it comes back, during hard times, or, you can always kind of wonder to dig into the cultural things of making it way more epic than it probably is, but at the same time, you kind of wonder, maybe.
Well, I do think so. I think there's a reason why comic books and superheroes kind of came to be at the time they did, from the sort of primarily the minds. They came about at a time when the world was on the brink of a Second World War.
Yeah. Is that when kind of the first real boom was? Around World War II?
Superheroes. Superman came out in 1938, maybe. Mm-hmm. And Batman not long after. And just before that, there was stuff like pulp novels that had sort of early proto superheroes like Doc Savage, who we've talked about in an episode. Things like the Spider and the Avenger and stuff, guys who had sort of weird abilities but not necessarily super abilities in every case.
Phantom?
The Phantom was one of the first, I think he might have been the first masked hero. He was a comic strip. And you sort of, it took a while to get there, but I think a lot of these things were created from people who, especially early on in superhero comics, many of the creators, the writers and artists were really young. I think I just mentioned him, Joe Kubert. Mm-hmm. He drew a lot of war comics and stuff. Also did some early Justice Society. He's still alive and working. I think he's probably in his 90s now. Mm-hmm. But he grew up. He started working when he was in his early mid-teens. Wow. Because that's what people did, I guess. And, he could draw. He could make money for his family, and but they're all kids who grew up in Jewish slums, mostly Jewish. Who probably felt disenfranchised and not a part of the larger culture, and threatened by fascism in Europe, or having literally just left Europe due to fascism and stuff like that. And I think that's sort of a unique sort of fuse that led to creation of superheroes, and it makes sense. Part of it's just that movie companies, TV shows, are looking for content now more than ever. There's so many places where they need it, and there are.
And for so many years they were doing it so poorly that now they can finally, hopefully, get it right.
There are decades of material there to mine, but I also think, we are at another point in time where we do have a lot of people who kind of maybe feel disenfranchised and feel powerless.
Like there's a lot too.
I think the fascism is kind of here again, but it's maybe as much in our own country as it is in Europe.
What if we're the bad guys?
So I think that's
political.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that's got something to do with it.
Yeah, probably. So. Pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. And I guess leading back to your personal favorites then, as we touched on them from those original Avengers ones, Mr. AntMan.
I loved AntMan. Yeah,
he's still your number one.
Yeah, when I first started reading comic books, like the first comics that really got me into it, that made me a comic book fan, were this series called West Coast Avengers, which is a spin-off of the regular Avengers comic. So it's essentially just like second Avengers book.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be the first one I grabbed. This character named Hank Pym. If you've seen the Ant-Man movie, you're familiar with the name. Or read the comic books, you certainly are. Showed up. And he wasn't a superhero. He just showed up, and the superheroes in the comic book obviously knew who he was and had worked with him. And I've said before, like, what I love about comic books, is this vast sort of history that you know nothing about until you get into them. You start researching it until you're sort of initiated into it. And it was clear that, like, he hadn't just been a superhero, he had been 4 superheroes. He would go on to be sort of a 5th version of a superhero, and then go back and that really fascinated me. Like, there's a lot of bang for your buck in that character.
That's pretty cool.
And it's silly. It's like, he shrinks and he grows and he's a super scientist. But yeah, I just loved it. So
that's awesome. Cool. Do you have I guess just to hit up some generic questions, I would love your opinion on a favorite costume. Would it be Ant-Man then? Who's just got the coolest, like, visual
costume? I think, like, a lot of, like, just as far as design of costumes, like, a lot of the coolest stuff.
That's a lot to do with it, just the visual. Like,
it's very much,
It's awesome.
I think that, like, just especially nowadays, some of the stuff, older stuff that's just weird or silly and is not cool at all, it, like, really appeals to me. The original Green Lantern did not look very much at all like the Green Lantern that people know from Super Friends or comic books today. Mm-hmm. He had like a flouncy, billowy kind of, I think, red shirt, and he had a purple cape, he had a green mask, he had blonde hair, he's got like brown boots. He just looked crazy, but it's just
Green Lantern.
Yeah, he's like a clown. I mean, and later on, he had a sidekick who was like his girlfriend named Harlequin, who was dressed like a clown, and it worked together, visually. So,
I just connected. Huh.
Yeah, so I not Harley Quinn.
Oh, okay.
Harlequin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The two are both DC characters, but not the same.
Oh, yeah.
But I just stuff like that I really enjoy. Like, I am the type of person who I'm attracted to, like, the lovable losers. So, like, DC has this very little known team called the Global Guardians, and it's like Owl Woman and the Tasmanian Devil, and, like, just really dorky characters. But that's the sort of stuff I love these days.
Do you think the costumes are those guys? The
goofier, they're really goofy. Like, you're wearing like an owl face mask and stuff. As far as just cool design goes, there's an artist named Alex Ross that probably most people would be familiar with who'd ever read comic books in the last decade or two. Mm-hmm. And he redesigns pretty frequently. He did a redesign of Captain America's costume for a run that I think a writer named Brubaker did in Captain America, where a different guy, Bucky Barnes, you might know him as the Winter Soldier in the movies, became a stand-in Captain America. And he did a redesign of Captain America, and he's just very good at making, like, very sort of elegant, kind of slick redesigns of cartoon.
It's cool the way they can all be kind of tweaked and stuff, because that's like my main appeal was always just the artwork and stuff. I just like to look at these cool uniforms and stuff.
I also like in earlier comics, before continuity was a big deal, and people were really sticklers for that. It was interesting to see how much costumes would change just from one artist to another, just because of their kind of style or perception of what was better or easier. Like Hawkman, as a DC character, has been around a long time, and he had this weirdly sort of complex mask that kind of almost had like 2 beaks on it, and feathers and shit, and different artists would draw that in radically different ways, and like finally some artists was like, fuck, this is a pain in the ass. They just drew like a mask on it, with a bird picture on it. Yeah, so, the stuff like that's interesting,
That's cool. Yeah, I don't know if I'd have a visually favorite. Maybe,
like in the movies, I don't know. What would you say from the movies, having seen the movies? Like, is there one that you think like works?
Costume wise?
I think it's like a fine line to walk because you want to create this sort of, and it's the thing that they really had a hard time doing until maybe the first X-Men movie or the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. You have to create this unreality where it makes sense for someone to be running around. And it was one of the things that was toughest with like Spider-Man serials in the 70s and stuff like that. You put somebody in tights and then put them in a city around people dressed in clothes, they look like an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, it does not
gritty,
work.
It's kind of like all these, like even Star Wars stuff, like you gotta make it darker, you gotta put a little dirt on them and stuff, you know?
And you gotta, it's, now they can do so much with costuming to kind of really tailor it to somebody's physique or to buff up somebody's physique or to make it look more functional or more tactical, and that kind of works. But you also got to, like, other people's costumes, I think, maybe have to, or even if they're just regular quote-unquote clothes, maybe the colors have to pop a little more, or the styles have to be a little different, or have to be complementary somehow, or the palette of the entire, movie has to be in such that it supports, somebody running around with Wolverine hair. Otherwise, you just look like an idiot.
Yeah, because initially I think Wolverine was probably just because of his whole package is pretty badass. It was like the first one was kind of just like, hey, and he's gritty and has cool mutton chops or whatever.
Right.
But like, when he's got the swoopy hair and even the costume with the big winged eyes or whatever, pretty ridiculous. Really,
you would never wear that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you did, you wouldn't be able. There would be no peripheral vision.
But
whatsoever.
they look great in the comics. But he was always the one that was like in the era that I was reading anyway too. He was always the one that was scrappiest and covered in a little bit of blood and stuff, and like. Yeah, so I always thought he looked the coolest, and kind of just the generic ones that appealed to me. Like Iron Man always looked cool because it was just a suit, it just looked like armor, like a knight or something. And
I always liked how like every 100 issues or whatever, Iron Man would kind of come out with a new suit and tweak it a little bit. Like, oh, that's cool.
It's like a car or something. You just gotta change like the bumper or something.
Yeah, it's got a new grill on it.
And Spider-Man is weird, even though because it is the dude in tights, it always works because he's just completely covered from head to toe, and it just makes no sense, but at the same time he always looks cool, whether it's the
he's got stuff that, like, why would he have little web wings under his arms? Doesn't really make sense,
sometimes
but
they
it
overdo
works.
it, and then they always kind of have to go back and just make it because some of those they get kind of stupid. Like there's one cartoon that's on where he's like in space or something, and they just start adding too many dumb colors or something to it, and it just didn't look right. But so I think any of those guys were definitely I guess along those topics too. The idea of impractical costumes is pretty funny to think about, like how Batman's neck doesn't turn very well.
Yeah, he doesn't turn his whole body. It's like he's got a crick in his neck.
And even visually, he's probably the coolest looking one, but like you see every variation of movies and shows and comics, and he's definitely a few of those don't really work with the design. I don't know if that was meant that he can't turn his neck, or if it's just a flaw in the
I think I recently heard somewhere, maybe on another podcast or read somewhere, like Michael Keaton, and this could be just made up by my brain, but I think Michael Keaton said it actually kind of helped in his performance that he couldn't turn, and that it was weird because it's an unreal situation, and like especially those movies are like very hyper real and very sort of intensified, comic-y. And so it sort of informed his performance that it was unnatural and weird. And I guess I could see that, but that only works so much, And I think like people really appreciate Batman's costume because, like people will say like really good comic costume design. You can just see a silhouette of that character, and you're like, "That's Batman." You know who that is, or even Superman, who has a very generic costume. If you just saw like big muscly dude. No obvious headgear. Cape, you'd say that's Superman. Now it could be one of a million generic superheroes.
Sure.
But you were going to assume it's Superman.
And that works on many levels too. You think of like even just Darth Vader coming through the fog, and even like Indiana Jones, like in a good way, where you just see the hat and the whatever. You're like, oh yeah, here we go.
Like it is a very, very specific sort of outline or silhouette or image, and I mean.
And then the ladies' side of things with the impractical costumes.
Oh yeah, if that was real, there'd just be boobs falling out. out,
some
and
pretty ridiculous.
ankles breaking, and
She's like supposed to be battling people in this outfit. There's a few I looked up that were just ridiculous. I remember like it's like Cloak and Dagger was one that I read, and it was like this chick that was in this like
it's got like a boob window, looks like a knife.
Looks like those like painted on swimsuit things. It was like everyone's just like, oh my god, what? It's like that's her superhero powers.
Yeah,
she's like, oh my god, please somebody cover that woman up.
I do have legitimate powers.
Yeah.
My eyes are up here.
Yeah. Oh what? And then she kicks him in the throat or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot to that for sure, and then and just bad masks. Like the idea of like, do you really even need that mask? Is it like really even covering anything? Like the Robin mask kind of deal, where it's just like the Zorro kind of thing, you know? Where it's like,
where you're just like, there's no way.
Why would you even bother at that point? A few of them are just even just pulling up a few from like the old was like Marvel Universe. They used to be like just kind of like a encyclopedia of characters. I used to love those because that's another thing with me as a kid. I always just kind of loved the idea of the characters. I didn't really care about their stories or whatever, you know. It's just like, ooh, and I think it was just liking the art more, where I just like to see.
I still love those sorts of things. Like if I find an old Marvel Universe in a dollar bin at the comic store, just flipping through it because there's always like an article on we're coming out with a comic called Night Mask, and these are the character designs that we didn't use. And it's just the crap they didn't want to use, but it's really cool to see
like what
the design process.
Like it's like watching failed sitcoms or like a list of like just like, oh, I remember that was on for like 3 episodes.
And I am always the type of person like there's always like the one costume that's really dorky, and there's obviously reasons they were like, oh, we can't do that. But there's always one in that group of like failed options where I'm like, oh, it'd be so cool if they used that one.
Yeah, totally. Pretty awesome. Or like a mask that's everything around their face. There's a few guys that just like a helmet.
They just have a completely open face.
The face is cut out. It's like that's
the reverse of a mask.
Yeah. So along those lines, I loved like the closest I ever got to playing D&D was like a Marvel version of that.
I had that.
And I still never really enjoyed the rolling the dice side of it, and I was just like,
I like the book and
creating the character
and the character.
Like what level, it's kind of early video game kind of thing where if you roll up whatever, you get him like he can punch real hard but he can't jump too high or something. But then like just designing the costume was like the funnest part for sure. And so did you have any invented superheroes?
I did. I invented a superhero. I mean, many superheroes because I also enjoy doing some doodling, and I still do that. But the earliest superhero, like sort of fully formed idea in my head that I ever created was called Amoeba Man. And Amoeba Man is sort of like Mr. Fantastic or Plastic Man because he can stretch, but he's more sort of fluid, so he like sort of splooshy and sploppy. He sort of flows.
Can he control his movements?
He can. But not like he can't like
not in a useful way.
no, it's just all over the place. He could, but it was more sort of protoplasmic, less rubbery. So it was more like a flow forward than it was like a stretch or like making himself into a slingshot. He never did stuff like that.
He'd have to like turn into slime to go under the door, then turn back into a
he would
human,
like just turn into a puddle and like under the door and stuff.
Awesome.
And he could also like shed like the majority of his sort of goopy mass and become tiny because I loved AntMan, so I thought that was a cool power to have.
Not in there.
And stuff like I
can't believe that never got picked up.
I know. I've drawn a billion pictures of him. He's been totally.
It's never too late.
Ultimately, his like in retrospect, I look back on it now, and things are like so many things. There's such a stew of crap in your head that things come from. You don't really know, but I look at it now. I'm like, that is just Charlie the Robot, Funland Robot from Scooby Doo. Like he just looks like that robot from Scooby Doo, but he's got an A on his head.
It's different. Can't get sued.
So I mean, that's the design. But at the time, I was. Awesome. So cool and original. So awesome.
And you brought him to life a few years back.
I did. I learned how to. I don't know how to use a sewing machine, so by hand I sewed an Amoeba Man mask and put goggles on it and made a suit. And,
solid costume,
yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
I didn't look like an idiot, that's for sure.
No. Well, I think if the movie does get made, you're going to get the call, and you should be the one to play the role, the leading role.
Definitely, with all of my buff.
Or if we figure out how to work iMovie, maybe we can bring this dream to reality. So look for it 2021, I think.
I think
Man,
so,
the movie.
yeah. That'd be great.
They're running out of ideas. These superhero things got to hit a dry well at some point, so we'll see. Awesome, man. Did he have a pet sidekick by any chance?
He did not. He did not have a pet sidekick.
Something I'm always curious about, too.
Yeah, my daughter actually has a sort of encyclopedia of pet sidekicks.
Really?
Yeah, from DC.
Awesome.
So it's everything from like Crypto the Super Dog to Ace the Bat Hound to Streaky the Super Cat to a bunch of sort of new made up ones. There's like I think Lex Luthor has a iguana named Ignatius or something.
My iguana.
There's like she loves reading this thing. Each one says like what their name is, what species they are, where they're from, what their favorite food is. She loves to know what their favorite food is.
Nice.
So
that's pretty rad. Yeah, I can't even really think of any favorites. I know Sentry had a dog that we talked about in the past episode, but he never really did much either.
The pet sidekick. I mean, that's
a tough one to pull off. Did anybody have like an orangutan or something useful?
I don't think so. Maybe Animal Man had an orangutan at some point. You probably don't know who Animal Man is. It's another DC character. His real name's Buddy Baker. He is.
Oh yeah, Buddy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Buddy. He's tied to something called the Red, which is sort of the
Baker's
field
a blues
of
guy,
life around the world, all living sort of animal creatures, not plants.
Like Beastmaster, but
so like any animal he's around, he can sort of adopt his abilities. So the strength of a gorilla or the
that sounds familiar. I probably recognize this fool if I saw him.
he's real cool. He's a deep cut.
He had an orangutan, you think?
I think there was one. He either was an orangutan, like in the comics, he just could adopt their abilities.
Yeah, so like.
But I think at some point in time, he maybe either got an orangutan and put a copy of his costume on him, or turned into an orangutan. I'm not sure.
An orangutan.
He dated an orangutan. It's hard to say.
Awesome. Well, I don't know. I guess like the idea too of what we touched on. Then we'll move on to some of the actual content.
Assignments,
Yes, but I had these theories. I was like, well, kind of what we initially kicked it off with the idea of like, well, there's TV shows and there's stuff that kind of put the idea of like superheroes in kids' heads and stuff. And I wonder now with the movies blowing up so big, how many kids are going to grow up being like diehard SpiderMan fans and the Avengers and stuff that have never even touched a comic? And you wonder, it's such a weird thing, like where if the whole comic disconnect is. I mean, as a purist, is that something to worry about?
I don't know. I think that comics will always, I think, have some sort of market. Maybe not in print form, but in digital form. And and I think there are so many good stories to be told and that are being told that will always kind of be there in some form, not just in movies. But I do think, like I work with college students. And one of them, Jacob, he loves all this stuff. We'll talk about it sometimes, like what's your favorite supervillain or what's your favorite superhero. And he knows a lot of this stuff because he's looked into it online, but he doesn't really read comic books. He likes it because of the TV shows and the movies and stuff like that. And that's why he's into it. And my brother-in-law is kind of that way. Like he does a little bit of comic book reading, but that's sort of like the back end of kind of just enjoying Smallville.
Further stories of the...
and wanting to know more about it, not from the front end like me. And I do think you'll have more and more people for whom a comic book is just a version of this thing they already like. Not, and they might be aware that it's the original source material that's been around longer, but it's just not something that particularly
more like a
them.
Bonus track on an album.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be how people, by and large, consume them.
Yeah, so it's weird. I don't know, but I guess it's good as long as they keep making the movies decent these days.
Yeah, sooner or later it's got to crap out, I think. Like, you can only do so much.
True. Cool, man. Well, I guess we'll dive in. Maybe sticking to the Avengers theme. I guess we haven't done the official table of contents yet to tip the listener off. But you probably saw it in any kind of posting. But we got a few things we're going to hopefully look at. We'll look at the Avengers Age of Ultron movie, which we watched together at the beach. Some of these are newer than others, of course. Flash, the TV series on Netflix. And watched a few episodes of that. We got the Captain America Winter Soldier soundtrack.
Yeah.
We got Orgazmo, a superhero movie from Trey Parker and Matt Stone, creators of South Park. Came out in 1998. And Wonder Woman, everyone's most recent, probably favorite superhero movie. It came out just last year? This year? 17 or 16?
17.
Oh, yeah, so we got that and a list of wonderful real life superheroes. So stick around for that. If you start getting weak in the knees or in the middle, you got to hear this at the end. So yeah, let's kick it off. Age of Ultron is something every rational human has probably seen ages ago, and I didn't see that one somehow. And finally got around to seeing it with you at the beach, and it was cool. And I guess one of the more positive endorsements right out of the gate I found was that the fact that I'd seen stuff that was supposed to happen after it and before it, and I hadn't seen this movie, and it all still kind of made sense, is good, I think. Because I think they are one of the main, I would think, ideas of these movies that all spin off of each other and such, is that they all kind of have to stand on their own as just a good movie, too. And, where you're not totally lost. I'm like, so what the hell's going on?
If I didn't see the first three, then this one's not a good movie. Yeah.
And then at the same time, I was kind of like, well, did I ever need to see this movie? Because I've seen all the stuff around it, so I don't really know. But there was a lot of cool stuff, I thought, in it. And just as a whole, did you feel like it's taking it to the next level?
I think it's a fun movie, and I think Ultron is one of the earliest and longest lived sort of comic book bad guys for the Avengers. He actually in the comics was created by Henry Pym, AntMan, accidentally, not by Iron Man and Tony Stark, or the Hulk, Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
So
totally stupid question, but it just dawned on me. In the comics, does he have a totally different shaped helmet? Is he he's not the big purple-headed Shogun warrior-looking dude, is he?
No,
who's that guy?
That's Galactus.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was flipping through something and saw him. I was like, is that supposed to be James Spader? Or
he actually in the movie looks a lot like
does it look like helmet kind of stuff going on? Okay.
Yeah, and he's a cool bad guy. He's indestructible. He's maniacal. He's he also has a lot of daddy issues because he considers Hank Pym to be his father, but he hates him.
Yeah.
And he wants to create more robotic life, so he will catch sort of extended family of Hank Pym, like his wife, his ex-wife, the Wasp, or whoever, and other Avengers, and he will make a brain pattern copy and then use that brain pattern as the basis for a personality for a robot that he later makes or something, that kind of crap.
Yeah.
And that's all, it's all cool when it's, convoluted and weird.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. But, so he's a good villain. I would say that Avengers Age of Ultron is very, very much in its sort of structure and its beats really similar to the first Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Big, massive, bad, sort of nameless, personality-less bad guys that can be killed without, the superheroes being complete murderers.
Right.
Attacking, and they all shut down at the end conveniently.
Yeah.
When the main one is defeated. And stuff.
Yeah, I thought they wrapped it up like, how in the hell? Oh, okay. One of these deals.
Yeah, so that's kind of a crapper, but it's an enjoyable. It's a fun movie. And I think it does sort of advance sort of overarching storylines like the Captain America and Tony Stark being at odds with each other.
Because the Civil War stuff comes after that.
Right? Yeah. And kind of being, button heads with each other about philosophy. And Tony Stark sort of having this PTSD and this need to, and it is, like, he does have a point in a way in the movie. He says, isn't the point that we don't have to keep doing this? Like, don't we want to protect people and just be done with it? So we don't have to keep fighting. He's not wrong, but he goes about it in a totally, Tony Stark's a complete idiot in the movies. Like, he's constantly fucking things up and then just sort of arrogantly brushes off his own mistake.
Yeah. Yeah,
which he does in this film.
So. Yeah, and then gonna be friction. So yeah, that's what's cool because I hadn't seen Civil War, I guess, and then piecing stuff together. Because there's like, and then Hawkman or Hawkeye, Hawkboy or whatever,
Hawk Dude, Arrow Man,
Arrow Guy. Yeah, he because he had something in the Civil War one where he's all like, "I'm not even supposed to be here today," kind of thing. Like I didn't really catch that he was like supposed to be retired or something, and definitely explains all that. So I thought that was cool because I got a little more backstory and stuff like that, and like Black Widow's whole uterus problems or whatever was going on there. But, so a lot more her backstory.
I'm a monster too.
And I didn't know her and Hulk had a thing or almost.
I feel like that
they already kind of passed that up.
It's probably gone. I don't know that they're gonna, I guess they could. But my guess would be, I think it's like an interesting kind of little
window, man.
Yeah, an interesting little subplot in there.
Yeah.
But it's probably like, I don't know, there's much to mine from it moving forward. So, and he's off on like the Thor movie as we record this, the third Thor movie, Thor, the next Thor movie, Ragnarok, is coming out, and it actually
down on Ragnarok.
Yeah,
crossover Muppet.
When's
that come out?
It
Christmas?
comes out in November, I think. He's the Hulk's in that pretty prominently, and it has some storylines from some Hulk comics as well as some Thor stuff, of course, in it. And I think that the plan seems to be Marvel Studios cannot make and then release on their own a Hulk movie because they have the rights to the character, but not the rights to market or
there's a lot of words.
Whatever the film, I don't know what the right word is. So they can't release it without working in conjunction with whoever has those rights, whether other studio. They don't want to do that and not have creative control.
They're just kind of working it in.
So they're just like, well, we'll just make a Hulk movie, but it'll be a third of it will be a part of this movie's plot, and a third of it will be in Avengers and Infinity War.
Probably a good idea.
I think that the successful part,
like 2 hours of like,
that's it. Like the way to tell a good Hulk story is to not make it a Hulk story.
Yeah,
you want a really good Bruce Banner. You want Hulk to show up some, but it's really all about Bruce Banner and his relationship with the Hulk.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting dynamic, but it, essentially if you make a whole movie of that, it's just a whole lot of him smashing stuff and then, waking up and
a couple scenes where the CG looks good and a couple scenes where it doesn't.
Yeah. So it's hard to do that, but as sort of a part of the Avengers, and that's one of the reasons why the Avengers comic book was created in the first place. It was all characters that maybe weren't doing well in solo books that they wanted to put together to see if they could do better in terms of sales and stories as a team.
That makes sense.
So, it makes sense that works better in the movies as well.
Yeah.
So.
And even to the degree of the Civil War one, that's why I was kind of confused. I thought I'd like this being a surface level dude. I was like, wasn't that an Avengers movie? I was like, I forgot that was like technically just a Captain America movie.
Yeah, I like that about the Marvel movies. That AntMan is a heist movie, and Thor is sort of a Shakespearean-ish period piece.
Yeah.
And it's got some sci-fi elements and that sort of thing. I like that you can have, the Winter Soldier is sort of a political thriller from the 70s and that sort of stuff. I like that they make, because the superhero genre itself will kind of run its course and wear itself out pretty quick if you just keep putting Superman the movie on the screen. As much as I love that movie as a kid and have affection for it today, you can't just make a straight superhero film. It has to have
all the Batman.
That has to be sort of the set dressing. Yeah, and then you need some other sort of motivator for the plot and for interest. So
makes sense. Well, any other thoughts on that? Speaking of Winter Soldier,
we could move on. I assigned to Gavin the Captain America Winter Soldier soundtrack. We've mentioned a number of times that Gavin writes and records and plays music. And especially nowadays when I don't have a whole lot of time, either at work or home, to really get into and enjoy music that I might just really love for the sake of that music. Like I used to, I will listen to a lot of soundtracks and stuff. It just sort of occupies the part of my brain that would otherwise probably be anxious about something or whatever. And I enjoy that, but I'm interested in, like, what do you think about the Captain America Winter Soldier soundtrack as a functioning piece of music whose job it is to do a thing?
Yeah, it was interesting. I occasionally, like a good instrumental one for those reasons too. Like, I'm a big lyric guy, so like a lot of times, even as a kid, like I loved sleeping to music, but a lot of times I couldn't listen to stuff with words because I would just listen to the words too much and pick out the lyrics and overanalyze those in my head. And so I'd always just put on like instrumental music to sleep to, and worked like a charm. And it's funny with this kind of thing too, and because this like definitely just comes out as what it is to me. It was like, it's totally respectable and awesome, and I love listening to it, and it's just cool hearing like composers like that. It's very like, it just grabs my mood too much too. Like I initially was like, oh, this would be great to run to because it's like action movie soundtrack. Basically, it's all like and it's cool because I was like, yeah, this would be great. And like somehow I missed it while like once the initial listen after you assigned it to me, and I was like, all right, so I'll just put it on while I'm cooking dinner. And I was all like trying to do something different. And I was like, faster, like sweat. And I was like, oh God, it's burning. And it's like, what is happening? It's like, I just need to calm down and turn this music down. So it definitely got me caught up in the moment. And it was funny, I was like re-listening to it again just the other day. It came on my iPod after like the album I had on before it, and it came into it. I was like, oh good, I need to listen to this anyway. And it was while I was like just like drawing with my son, or like just doing some drawings, and it was working cool. And he's like, it was all like epic, the most epic friggin' drawing ever. And then like I got a text, and it was like something kind of like serious or something. I can't remember what I was like trying to like concentrate while like texting back. Yeah, I came back with a just like, oh God, just like couldn't even understand it at first. I was like, why am I freaking out so much? I was like, oh, it's the soundtrack. I mean, I just pause this for a second. It's like getting way too caught up in my own movie of my life, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I think it's great, and seems to really do the job. I don't think I've seen this one. Is this the second Captain America?
This is the second Captain America movie. Yeah.
And then I guess Civil War would be the third.
The Civil War is third, yes.
So yeah, I haven't even seen this in actual movie, so that was even funnier.
It is one of I should lend it to you sometime. It is, to me, probably like one of the top 3 or so Marvel movies that have come out. Yeah, it's like legitimately just from the standpoint of being a movie that happens to be a superhero movie, like really solid, well-made, entertaining movie. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've been everything super surprised with Captain America and all this too, because it's like, one, I never really cared much for that actor, just because I related him to that Human Torch. I think he did one of the first versions of the Fantastic Flop.
Yeah, not so good.
So, nothing personally against the dude, but I just kind of associate him with that all the time. And then, like, he's just kind of a goofy, goody boy superhero dude. I had a bunch of his comics, actually. He was one that I was subscribed to, but then it just kind of wore off quick after the World War II stuff. But yeah, seeing that very first real Captain America one like totally blew me away with how good that was, and the Civil War one was really good. So yeah, I would like to borrow this one.
It's a great movie.
But the composer, I guess Henry Jackman is the guy. Was the main composer of the soundtrack, and an English gentleman. I researched that and found that he has many blockbusters to his credits.
Yeah, he's done
I didn't write down a lot, but it was just like a lot that you wouldn't be surprised. Like, oh, okay, cool.
I feel like he did something that was like odd to me. Like he also did How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah,
or something like that.
It's definitely like they're all big,
but they're all sort of
movies,
fantasy.
Adventure. Made sense. He has 3 solo albums of just non-soundtrack stuff.
Interesting.
But I have no clue what that would be like. But,
it's just his personal haiku.
Yeah.
While he plays the nose flute.
His synth pop album. like, sick about Captain America. It's like, whoa. It's a departure. It's like, Star Turtle. Hello, Henry. Oh, no.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of different soundtracks, and there's a handful of guys who seem to do a lot of them. And I think one of the criticisms about Marvel movies is that often their soundtracks are kind of generic and forgettable, or samey. And I mean, you know, I think it's sort of like the same thing as like if you're a graphic designer, a graphic artist, and your art is primarily intended to do a thing, to sell a product, to make, you know, a beer look good or whatever it happens to be. Like, that doesn't mean your art can't be art, can't transcend that function it's supposed to have, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's harder to do that because you have one more hurdle in your way to getting there. Like, it has to do a thing. And I think that, you know, like, these soundtracks are a little generic and samey. Probably why it's soothing to me as sort of background stuff, because it's sort of reliable and dependable, and you know, I'm not going to get too wrapped up in it like I would with music that I really love. So yeah, I mean, it has to do with it.
Do you feel it captures you though? Or like, will you be like listening to it at work and now so you're just like totally like freaking out and didn't realize it was like the music
maybe
carrying
a little
you?
bit, but I listen to them kind of so much in a passive way now that it's just sort of noise. It's like I say, for me, it just engages like the sort of back part of my brain that otherwise would be, you know, involved with being like super stressed out about something for no reason at all. So it's good for me.
Cool. I noted that Fury and Causeway were my two favorites.
Yeah, Fury and Causeway are the two best parts of the movie.
Nick Fury, like some serious shit was going down. So.
Nick Fury, as played by Samuel L. Jackson, gets his sort of, you know, he gets to do a little bit in a lot of the Marvel movies. The first Avengers movie is arguably a Nick Fury movie in a lot of ways. But, he gets his big major kind of action scene in the middle of Captain America, and it's good. Like, it's my favorite part. I will sometimes just put it on and skip forward to that part and watch it. It's great.
Cool. And he uses a lot of cool like synths with orchestra and stuff. That was cool. Like, where it wasn't just straight up kind of knock off John Williams or you know, like, where it wasn't just like kind of it was like some cool like kind of stuff and mixed in with there, and that was kind of cool touch that I wasn't expecting. So
John Williams, I would say, is one of the rare guys who does manage as often as not to get his functioning piece of music, you know, his doing a job piece of music to sort of transcend that function and be music, be art. I mean, like, he's really, really good. It's not just Star Wars. I mean, he is really good.
For sure. So cool, man. Well, thanks for mixing it up and throwing
I'm
the
glad you
soundtrack.
made it.
That was cool. I will definitely keep it on the iPod for when I'm running. When I'm cooking. And then I guess shifting back gears to visual stuff. We watched a few episodes at the beach. Flash on Netflix. Is that a Netflix original, I believe, right?
No, it is a CW show.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And kind of feels like it.
It does. In the best way possible.
Yeah, it's weird. I watched about 6 episodes. I still haven't made it to the full season. Don't know if I will, but it's fun that they kind of stand alone on their. You don't really have to like. They have a common thread going and some storyline stuff, but yeah, it's goofy. Definitely goofy, but it's fun because it's like. It is just kind of like, I can throw it on with my kid, or I can just put it on while I'm
your
folding
son
some
just
laundry.
Got sucked into it.
He was totally into like just the whole idea of this dude that can run so fast. So I think that was a huge part. And he's always just it's one of those like superhero original ideas too. I wonder how far back he dates Flash, because it's kind of this when you just started going down the checklist of like a superhero can just do anything really good. Run? All right.
Okay.
Let's do
the first Flash was also in the probably early 40s, 1940, 1941, in DC. Actually, it's National Comics at the time, later folded into DC Comics. And he was not Barry Allen, who is the Flash that you see in the TV show. And I think in the comics today, there's also a Wally West version who is post Barry Allen. I'm not going to think of the character's real, quote unquote, real name.
Nah.
The original one. But he hung out with Wonder Woman and this character, the Green Lantern that I talked about, the original Green Lantern and stuff. And he actually wore a helmet that looked like Mercury's helmet from Greek myth. So, yeah, it was very much a derivative of that.
Was he on Super Friends, Flash?
Yes, the Flash was on Super Friends. Yeah, the Barry Allen version was on there.
Cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like I said, it's just kind of goofy. The characters are alright. It's crazy how, like, in the show, how many people know he's the Flash. He's got, like,
it doesn't get out.
Support team and stuff. And, like, I don't know if that's always been his story or something they changed up just for the show. But, yeah, he's got, like, this whole little HQ of, like, people that, like, I guess he worked with before it blew up and he got his powers. So that's kind of cool and a little weird at the same time. And then it just seems like he has some like girl that he's like, hey, by the way, I'm the Flash. He's just kind of always throwing it out there, but still wears a mask. You know, it's like
and like the Flash is supposed to be able to like he's constantly in movement, like molecularly in movement more so than a normal person. So like. When he's in public, he's vibrating so fast that people can't really see him anyway. So he needed a costume.
He I think pulled that out just in the episode for the first time. The last one I saw, the one that's freshest in my mind, I think it was episode 5 or 6 I had, meta-humans and stuff. It was like some lady that just blows up. She had the same problem, and they're trying to like keep her on their side, but she was a mess because everything she touched would explode.
And poop.
Yeah, so she had a pretty lame superpower. Yeah. Eventually he just ran her out in the ocean and she blew up or something.
It's a bummer.
And so there was a lot of that going on, and but he moved his face real fast when he was talking to his friend that he has the hots for, so she couldn't tell it was him or something. So,
I think
and he thumbs through some files real fast. I didn't know if that was something that he could do. So he can do other stuff real fast?
Yeah, he can do everything real fast. Just whatever.
What if can he read real fast and comprehend it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That's something he's real good at. Yeah, a guy named Carmine Infantino is probably Jay Garrick. That's the original Flash. Carmine Infantino is probably most associated with that Silver Age Barry Allen Flash, and his art was super awesome. He would do stuff like when Barry first gets his powers, he discovers he has powers because he's gone to a diner. He's a forensic scientist working for a police department, and he has the accident. He doesn't know he's gotten powers until he goes to a diner to get something to eat, and somebody bumps the waitress, and she starts dropping food, and he just instinctively moves as fast as he can to try to help her. And the comic book panel it takes a comic book panel has to be static. It can't move. So he just plays that up. So it they're like the hot dogs are flying on the plate and they're floating in midair. His eyes real big. He's like, yeah. So it's super good. It's super cool stuff. I think that the guy who plays Flash in the current series is named Grant Gustin. And I think he's very likable.
The actor?
The actor. And he's kind of aw shucks, dopey, likable. I don't like the CW. Mostly the CW shows I don't think are great. It's the CW. Arrow. Yeah, he's got the Green Arrow show. It's called Arrow, but he just kind of comes off as a douche and yells a lot. I don't like that. But this one is likable because the guy playing the Flash, I think, is so likable. Yeah, he just seems like a guy that you think is a decent guy. So
and I guess he's trying to find out his father's. Is that the main and
the dude who plays his dad in the show played the Flash in a very short-lived 90s show.
About that. Awesome. Yeah, I remember that in the 90s.
With Mark Hamill.
Yeah, was it Mark Hamill?
Mark Hamill played a bad guy called the Trickster.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And I should watch the end of this, see where it goes. I guess there's like 3 seasons, maybe. So.
Yeah, the 4th season just started.
Cool.
There's a whole lot.
Kevin Smith directed a couple coming up. So.
There's a whole lot. There's a musical episode where they sing. It's weird. It's very distracting. There's a whole lot of I gotta get faster. There's a new bad guy who's also a speedster. I gotta get faster. That happens like all 3 first seasons.
It seemed like villain-wise, it was cool because they're kind of just cranking out a different villain every episode. Does that kind of keep?
You get so there's always this sort of overarching who's the manipulator, who's the real bad guy. We know the Reverse Flash is out there, Dr. Zoom, whatever, Savitar. And we're working towards little bits and pieces
Is that
of plot
his boss? What's going on with him? He's a bad guy.
Yeah, the dude in the wheelchair, doesn't need the wheelchair.
He doesn't need it.
No, and he's also not Harry. He's not Harrison Wells. He is the Reverse Flash from the future who has come back in time to murder the Flash if he can. Or just stop the Flash from being without erasing his own existence, because he only exists because the Flash created him. Yeah, it gets convoluted and weird, man.
All I know is he's got weird skin, that actor.
He does. He's crinkly.
He looks like he shaves real close, but
you know why?
He should really just grow
He's
some
Canadian.
Ooh, yeah.
That's what it is.
It's gotta be it.
You're detecting the scent of Canada.
Some maple syrupy smell about him or something.
That's how he keeps his hair up.
Yeah, that dude, I just see him, and it's like every episode I watch so far where he's like his support boss and everything. I'm just a wizard in a wheelchair, and then like at the end of like every episode, he like gets up and gets like a glass of milk and winks at the camera.
He like moves his foot. You're like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, it's like I knew that sucker was bad.
Yeah. He's a bad dude. He's not who you think he is. But the same actor comes back again and again. Spoiler alert. That Harrison Wells Reverse Flash imposter, he dies. He gets erased from existence. And then that same actor comes back to play another universe's version of that same Doctor. So that character is
like
actually he's actually directed at least a couple of episodes, I think. And he's in almost every episode as a Harrison Wells, but they have the technology to go to other universes and back. So the other versions.
Does he have like just a mole or something so you know he's different?
He just talks to like one version is like he's like
life?
From a weird reality where like they don't have coffee, so when he gets here and we have it, he just drinks it all the time. He's like hyper, and he like so he's messing around with drumsticks and shit. Yeah, just weird differences. Like one where like the first Harrison Wells, like he seems real supportive and helpful, and he ends up being a bad guy. The second Harrison Wells just comes off as a dick, but he's actually a decent guy. So,
damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
weird.
It's very DC to me.
It is. Yeah, and there's like if you're into comics and you do know sort of the history of some of the older stuff and some of the newer stuff, there's tons and tons of little Easter eggs and stuff in there.
Let's go.
But I think they do an okay job. Like, your son has never read it.
Yeah,
he doesn't know any of that stuff. He doesn't pick up on that, and it's still entertaining. So that show, I think, is like a good, just fun watch, but it's not a great show. It's a dopey show.
Yeah, for sure. But cool, man. Well, I guess moving on, we'll take a break before we dive into a mega DC character and maybe do a quick talk of the film Orgazmo, kind of steering off track. I thought we could assign this one's
a superhero.
It's a superhero, technically.
And I'm not familiar with it. I never saw it.
Not Marvel, not
DC.
Was 98, yeah. And like I said, it's a film created, I feel like South Park had already been out, but it's Trey Parker and Matt Stone that created South Park. And,
it was before Basketball.
Yeah, it had to be.
After, what is the other one? Cannibal
the musical. Yeah.
And they look real young in it.
Yeah.
To me.
But South Park had to have been out by that point.
Ron Jeremy's in it, and he doesn't look half dead. So it was a while ago. I mean, it was 98.
Yeah. So
I don't remember when South Park started, but it was probably around that time.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, it must have. Maybe this was
and I feel like there's probably a lot of other acting or active porn stars.
And it's,
Ron Jeremy's the one that I really know.
Yeah, it was on that era where he was in like everything.
But then you see, like the cast list, and you're like, these are all fake porn names. These are not people's real names.
So the reason we bring up porn is because the quick synopsis, I guess, is our buddy Trey Parker. He is a Mormon guy, and he goes out to California on his mission, and they're going around to different houses. They stumble across a porn studio.
Yeah, lo and behold. Yes.
And they get mad, almost get their asses kicked, but it turns out he knows martial arts of some sort. And
he's got some moxie.
Yeah.
And that impresses with Max.
Yeah,
Orbison?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Orbison or something?
Yeah. And so they want to hire him to be a superhero in a porn called Orgazmo, who's a superhero that has a Orgazmo ray gun thing that shoots people and has them orgasm. Of course, this fine young Mormon kid would never do such a thing, but his fiancée is pressuring him to get married at the temple, and they need money to do it.
Yeah.
And it's the only way he can make the money. It's classic, like, 80s movie. like what was it? Loverboy and stuff.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I need the money. I had to do something that went against my ethics.
Let's see what happens now.
So it's packed full of wackiness. We got, so Joe Young is who Trey Parker plays. That's his character. Joe Young / Orgazmo. And oh yeah, he always has a stunt cock, so he doesn't actually have to have any sex with him. So he gets like where he just does all the superhero martial arts and acting, and then like right when it comes time, they go cut stunt cock, and the dude comes in and like,
he's got a sidekick who's like sex toy lad,
Chota boy.
Yes,
yeah, and he's like just a pro in the business, and they become friends. And
he's like a super genius. He's just into it because he loves porn or something.
Yeah. And that's where it gets like, because then it gets like some serious businesses going down where this porn director's like
not a good dude.
Yeah, like a mafia boss almost, and he's like G-Fresh, their Asian sushi friend.
And they're trying to muscle him out so the club can expand.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's all these complicated subplots, and basically Chota Boy has created a real orgasm.
It works.
And so he becomes like a real life superhero, like which we'll talk about later. And he has to I guess just defend his friend G-Fresh, and also
at this point I don't think they realize yet that Max is behind.
Yeah.
The
whole,
So they know he's not a great guy,
right?
Because he's not a great guy. But
somehow his wife comes, or his fiance comes out to visit, and she gets captured by him, and he has to rescue him
because he wants to quit. He's like, "I'm out of here. I'm enjoying a movie."
Yeah.
And then they capture her, and they're like, "You're gonna do the movie, and we're gonna make your girlfriend do it."
Yeah, the star, and he has to bust in there, and his Orgazmo with the mask on and everything. Talking about great costumes. This is pretty rad. He's got the cape and the whole
he's got a cod piece.
Yeah, he's looking good, and he uses a great voice. Like
and the Orgazmo ray, whichever hand he wears done, just sort of looks like a giant snow cone cup, kind of.
Yeah, it's like a cheerleader thing they yell through.
Yeah.
And Neutered Man is the dude, his arch nemesis, because he doesn't.
Yeah.
It's like, your ray won't work on me, Orgazmo. I have no balls.
Yeah.
So, they fight, and one of Neutered Man's great tricks is where he farts in his hand and puts it in the other dude's face. Very juvenile humor.
I mean, if you've never seen it, but you have seen South Park, then you know exactly what it's going to be.
It's strange. I was curious your thoughts on it, because there's how old was I? About 20. Yeah, like 21 at this point. It was like prime drunk in the basement. South Park's great. And then these guys, and we just love this movie, and we watched it like way too many times that I should never admit, but we just thought it was hilarious, and like watching it again, it's definitely like, this is pretty ridiculous.
It's funny, like I had somehow just never seen it.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous, but it's like the best sort of ridiculous. I mean, it's, in the way that South Park is ridiculous. People who get all bent out of shape about South Park, I mean, I get it, it's not appropriate humor, but I mean, that's kind of the point. I mean, its point is to be offensive, or to be ridiculous, or to be over the top, or outrageous. So, I mean, and it's sort of reminiscent of like those other earlier superhero attempts we were talking about, where they don't have the technology on set. I think I read they spent $1 million to make it, maybe, and it wasn't. It got an NC-17 rating, and it only brought in like 600,000 in the box office. And I'm sure it's more than made its money back since then. It's probably a cult classic. I'm sure
because of South Park. Everyone check that out.
So I'm sure it all worked out just fine for Trey and Matt. And Matt's in it.
He's
the dude. What is he? He's like, I mean, I'm not I'm not into dudes. What does he say?
Oh shit, I'm not gay or nothing. But that guy's got a nice head.
And he makes he's like a stupid pucker face.
Yeah,
it's
just like everything was
mullet.
like just this kind of gay comment that would be, I'm not gay or nothing, but
I'd like to make love to you.
Yeah, it's like I'm not gay or nothing, but I think I'd like to have sex with you.
And then
it's like,
and then he finally meets another dude who does the same thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, like those same sort of limitations. They play up to really good comedic value, which you can see in other stuff. And it's also, I mean, there are superhero porns, like when the Helen Slater Supergirl movie came out, right around that same time, a Supergirl porn came out, which of course did not have Helen Slater in it.
I was like, what? She's in it.
And then of course, like Flash Gordon came out, and there was a movie called Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a long tradition.
It's a whole industry. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I enjoy it for what it is. You know, you probably wouldn't want to get caught watching it. You know, like stuck with the in-laws having to watch it. It would get uncomfortable. But it's not like it's horrible. I mean, it's not just like it's not a porn,
right?
You know.
Yeah. It's definitely more tame than Boogie Nights for sure.
Yeah.
So
Though they should remake it with Mark Wahlberg.
True. Yeah, that'd be good. Like a serious Orgazmo.
Yes.
That'd be good. A reboot. Why not?
They reboot everything else. Why not? Yeah.
And I just love. I think like the Mormon humor like is really what carried it too. Like as far as like the smarter side of jokes was funny. It was just the fact making him like a Mormon. Every time I was like, I'm from Utah, and everyone would just say, "Oh, I'm sorry." It's just like, really awesome.
Oh man, I meant to look up. Do you know if there was ever a companion comic book at all?
No, I'm sure somebody.
I mean, it seems like there would be. And I meant to look it up to see if I could maybe like find a couple copies and order them.
True.
But I just completely looked on it.
Probably, yeah. And since crossovers are huge in the superhero world, I have to cross over and note that another reason why I was so keen on this movie was because of the soundtrack of Orgazmo. There was a band specially formed just for the soundtrack. It was called Cogasm, which was Robert Smith of The Cure and Jason Cooper, who had just joined the band on drums, and Reeves Grabels, who I just saw live a few weeks ago.
In person.
Now in the Cure full-time touring whenever they do tour, and they put a song out called Sign from God that's on that soundtrack, so they recorded it just for this.
That I did not stumble across.
And it's a cool song, so I'll definitely
it's
put a link
cool
to it. It's a good song.
That the South Park boys had the sort of cachet to be like, hey,
so I'm not quite sure. I should know in my Cure knowledge when the Cure South Park, when he was in the episode there, but so yeah, I don't know if this led to that or if that was before this, and then they're like, hey, would you also like to do a song for our movie? But
that's cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. It's a good song too.
I'd like to imagine a world where Robert Smith is just like, I love those guys.
I just picture him sitting around watching South Park too. Kind of redeemed myself even feeling bad for still thinking this movie's funny, just like, wow, Robert Smith's cool.
I would give it a solid 5 stars out of 7 3/4 stars.
5 out of 7? That's in 3/4?
Yeah.
That would be kind of in that weird measurement.
Yeah.
I'd give it let's see, out of 7 3/4 stars. Yeah, I'd probably be right around there. Maybe 5.5 even, just for that extra.
For a little nostalgia. If it were a cereal, it'd be like Captain Crunch.
Soundtrack.
It's good. Wouldn't want it all the time.
Yeah.
Might tear your mouth up a little bit.
I like that I could kind of just forget that it existed, and then
I
moments like this where I was like,
When you first assigned it to me, I got it confused. In my head, I saw the movie poster for Basketball, and I was like,
what the hell?
I don't know if I want to watch that.
Yeah, it's Basketball, some funny parts, but that was pretty terrible.
Yeah. I mean,
and I feel like they had a third one, but that was way too late. I guess they did Team America. That was actually pretty funny.
That was good.
But Wonder Woman. That is the old song.
It is.
Wonder Woman. As I started singing that, I watched this with my nearly 5-year-old son. I was like, he'll dig this, What isn't there to enjoy watching? And while we were gearing up the movie, we just kept singing Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman.
You're Wonder.
And then I was like, I hope that was the actual song. I couldn't quite remember. But But yeah, this is a big blockbuster, man.
Huge.
People love this, and Oscar buzz. Even people are like, this could be the one to bring home. Like, come on.
I feel like, well, we should ask you about it. We should. Okay, so what is your nutshell review before we do a deep dive?
My initial nutshell. Well, I feel like it suffered a bit because I'd heard so many almost surprisingly wonderful things.
Makes it
like
tough.
Everyone, because I was like initially, it's like one, I'm kind of anti DC. Like if people haven't picked up on that yet, I'm definitely. If I'm gonna lean, I lean Marvel, like the grittier like stuff, like you said, even with Batman, where it takes it. I think that was a hard thing with superhero movies for so long, is they never knew the balance of like, do you make it comic booky or do you make it like a gritty real movie? And like,
right.
I think like the Avengers movies look like they're actually in a building shooting, you know, like when
doing
they're
stuff.
yeah, when they're like fighting a SWAT team or something. It's like a real war movie almost.
Right.
They film it and it looks gritty and dark and shit's going down. And then like, you know, old, like Michael Keaton Batman's like great, but it looks like a comic book came to life, you know, and that's cool too. And even like the first like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man ones, I was kind of rewatched that recently, and I was like surprised at how like comic booky that still was, you know, where they still were trying to find that balance, and you know, and both work in their own way, and certain ones don't. I feel like a lot of DC ones always kind of just seemed comic booky, you know, like it never worked in a gritty way. So I was like excited, you know. But sorry, what were you saying?
The most recent DC movies, the Batman v Superman, the first Superman, Man of Steel, I think were not critically well received. I mean, they made nearly $1 billion each, so they did just fine. Yeah. But they have not been they've not found a way to strike that balance, really, because they're trying to be gritty and stuff, but it kind of erred so far in that way that everything's just kind of like gray, and there's no fun, and there's no color.
Because I watched those Superman versus Batman, like really drunk, and like I was like, this is dumb and shit. Like I did not get into any of it, but it was.
When I watched it, I was real drunk. My wife Ganita was real sober, because she always is. And it got to that part where like Batman's stepping on Superman's neck, is like, and we both were just like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it just didn't like have any like desire to care about either of them. I was just like, what is going on?
It's like, you're both supposed to be smart dudes. Like, if you talked for 2 minutes, all of this would be avoided, you moron.
And it seemed like they just jumped the gun, because it was like they're kind of doing like the Civil War thing, but it was like by that point there's been so many movies that make you care about all these Marvel people. Like those was like,
they're trying to cram so much in to get their sort of shared universe started so quickly that it just doesn't work. And the guy who directed the Watchmen movie, which I think was a good adaptation of the Watchmen, directed the Man of Steel, I think, and Batman vs Superman, and it just, that same aesthetic and vibe does not work in those movies. Right. And this movie, to bring it back to the topic, really does a much better job of like not just injecting like jokes or humor, because that's, you don't have to do that for it to be fun. Yeah, but it should have some fun, you know. So,
and she's a tough character, so I think that's what I was getting at with it. The bar was so low initially with the idea of, hey, they're making a Wonder Woman movie. I'm like, oh god, like how could they make that cool? She's just like, she's cool, but she's like a kind of ridiculous outfit, and she's very Superman-esque in the sense that it's like, alright, well, make this work. But then everyone's like, whoa, this was amazing. And you see the pictures of her, you know, Gal Gadot, is that her?
Gal Gadot, I think she I think is Israeli.
Okay. Yeah, but she's beautiful and looks great. And I was like, even before seeing the movie, I was like, wow, alright, I guess everyone's onto something. And just like, reviews are great. Everyone just fucking loved this and blew it through the roof. And I was late, you know, of course, not seeing it in the theater even. And, got it pretty much, I think it was like the first week it got released on like Hulu or something where I could pay and see it, and so I was pretty pumped to see it at that point too, and definitely enjoyed it. You know, it was like, in a nutshell, quick version was a little lamer than I thought it would be, but it was still cool, and I think probably way cooler than any of the other like DC ones, and going in the right direction and everything. But I kind of felt like maybe everybody just wanted it to be better than it probably actually is. To sound kind of, the guy pissing on the parade or whatever. but yeah, I was a little surprised because it was like I was watching it, I was like, it's kind of cool, but there was just certain things that were just kind of like, oh, really? All right. And I always get a little torn with, like, even in the Marvel ones, the idea of like a superhero that's fighting crime in the streets and stuff makes a lot more sense to me. Even like the Batman style of that, but I have trouble with the gods and stuff, like Thor and shit. It's just like, it's cool and like whatever, but it just gets so ridiculous. Like anytime it gets into like gods battling each other and universes melting and you're wrestling a black hole, or just like, this is so out of all our control and whatever, and kind of why Superman never appeals to me, because he's just of the I'm just can do anything. I can spin around the earth and turn back time.
Why don't I do it every time? I don't know.
Yeah, none of it adds up. I think that's what, to me, I'm like enough of a realist favor of like, there's got to be some level of like, what the hell is possible?
Viability.
Yeah, and I feel like even a few times in this movie there was like shit and was like, oh, she could just jump like 8 miles? So why didn't she just do that from the first time when she was trying to get there or something? And like a few of those kind of things where she was just like, oh, I guess she can punch through an entire building and throw it. Just like little things, nothing really huge to call it out, but yeah, I don't know. Were you kind of in the same boat? Were you a little more disappointed?
Like so many people loved it so much, and like kind of flocked to it as this flagship sort of. I don't know if feminist is the right word.
Yeah,
I don't know, feminine icon maybe.
Yeah.
And Wonder Woman is that, and also was created by a man in the 30s in a much different time, and she's got, like all these characters, there's embarrassing sort of parts in the past and things that aren't so, grand and all that. But I feel it's almost like, I almost feel like it was so successful and so lauded as this female, super character that was so beautifully done, or so well done and so powerful. It's almost like I feel like I'm doing something bad by being like, oh, it's good.
Right.
But it wasn't great.
Everyone wanted it to be so good.
Yeah, I mean, so
just
it's
so
like,
they could be a strong female icon.
Yeah, and maybe if I had seen it like right off the bat without having seen anything other than a trailer in a theater, in a big theater, but I've got a 4-year-old at home. And so we don't get to go to the movies all that often.
Opening weekend.
Yeah, it's not often that we get to. So you got to pick and choose really pretty stringently. Mm-hmm. And just this wasn't one that we could do. So we saw it at home. And I've watched it a couple of times now. I think the best thing going for the movie is sort of like the best thing going for the Flash TV show. The woman who plays Wonder Woman is really charming and super likable and earnest in a way that Christopher Reeves was in the original Superman. Like she is very likable and believable in the role, and just seems like someone who is just a good person, like nice and good, and you are attracted to that. It doesn't hurt that she's a beautiful woman, and Chris Pine is a beautiful man, and all that stuff. But
strange eyebrows. Like, I just can't get past the eyebrows.
I don't have any impression of that.
Yeah, I had trouble with him as Captain Kirk. And
okay, I thought you talking her eyebrows.
No, she's got great eyebrows.
Perfectly normal eyebrows.
I love those eyebrows. But and he's gradually winning me over, but he's always a little too
He's always got a little bit of smarmy turd to him. He's a lovely man in real life. I mean, he's pretty good as Steve Trevor. I like the World War I setting, because it pushes it back far enough. Like, whatever the reality was and is today, it's more believable and maybe just more palatable to a modern day audience to see. Way back in 1917, I mean, a woman would be someone would say, just get her out of the room. And you would like to think that wouldn't happen today, or wouldn't have even happened in the 40s, but it might have. I don't know.
It does kind of torn on that too, like you're saying. It seems like dangerous territory of stepping, but it did seem a little too planted. Where there was so much of that in the movie. It was like, oh, a woman, how dare her?
And she even read English?
Yeah, it was like,
let alone hieratic.
And even just the whole "be careful in the world of men don't deserve you," and all this. Which
it was a little heavy-handed.
Maybe that's all pulled from an actual, source material stuff, but it seemed like it was
sort of, yeah. The original source material, I don't know if we've discussed this before in a podcast. It's very, and this has probably been discussed in a billion different podcasts and YouTube videos and stuff. It is super duper, like, William Moulton Marston, the guy who created Wonder Woman, also created the lie detector. Little factoid.
Didn't know that. Actually, I think I did hear that on NPR.
But he was also married and had a live-in nanny who he also had children with. Sort of a menage going. So he's an unusual dude, and he also had weird ideas about sort of women's liberation and stuff. So the character was supposed to, and it was a reaction to, I think, I could be wrong with this, to sort of push back at comics being, too masculine and too violent and stuff. And so this womanly character, this matronly, beautiful woman who was beautiful and strong and, could break the chains of man's domination and all that sort of thing.
It's pretty deliberate then.
It was all pretty deliberate. But also, like, every single issue of the early comic books features very obvious bondage. Like, really obvious, like, hog-tied Wonder Woman being spanked by her friend Etta Candy. And stuff like that. So, I mean, it's not all, sunshine and roses.
Totally, that makes it more legit, really. It should be in there. A movie coming out of that. Have you seen all that? Like the true story?
I have not seen it, but
I think it's coming out like this week.
Is it? Okay, I've seen a review of it somewhere.
I'd probably enjoy watching that more.
I
than
think
this,
probably, and I think the character, I think that for the person he was at the time, I think he did have honest intentions. I don't think he was like this dirtbag of a dude. It's not even my impression from what little I've read about it that, I think both his wife and his mistress were fully aware of what was going on. So it is what it is. It is what it is. But whatever that was, but it's a weird. She's a weird character. Probably the first, maybe not the first female superhero. She's not the first female superhero, but one of the first, and probably the one that is relevant, sort of the most. What's the word? Archetype.
Iconic.
Yes. Yes. So, I think
it's a good story. It definitely needs to be made. It's cool that they didn't make it.
Yeah, and it's great, and it's cool that it did well because DC does have a lot of cool characters that I would like to see good movies made about. They've got a Justice League movie coming out soon that I think has kind of had some extensive reshoots to kind of give her more to do, and that's
clearly
cool.
She's the only one people want to watch.
And that's cool. Like she could definitely, she's powerful enough as a character to be the sort of heavy hitter on a team, and to she's likable enough.
And going back to like you're saying, that actress, I felt like that was definitely the idea of. I'm sure it was pretty already calmed down, but the idea of Oscar buzz, I'm like, it's a movie, no way. But I mean, she did great with the character. I felt like that she was just really, like you said, for all those reasons, and not just for being beautiful and cool. But it was like, that's a tough one to step into because people of our age too just totally associate the Linda Carter and all right, come on, man, how can you do anything productive with this role? And but made it something cool to watch, and it was basically I don't know, you could just have her blowing shit up, which basically it was. But that was the underlining cool stuff for the movie, and so I thought she did great with it. And, Robin Wright, I thought was a little underwhelming. She was a cool character, but then
she got kind of a lot of buzz, but she didn't make it very far.
I was all like, what? They kill her? Sorry, spoilers, but
she's dead.
She's dead pretty early on, and she leaves the bubble of the island of ladies. And another complaint would be while the action scenes were pretty cool, there was definitely a little too much hidden dragon crouching flips matrix kind of shit where everybody just seemed to be slow-mo jumping and spinning like 15 feet in the air and stuff.
I thought that the scenes where they pull out and she's like, especially when she's using the lasso and she's relatively small in the frame, there was just like a rubberiness to it, like a stretch, like a push, a stretch and squash animated, like old style animation quality. Just a little bit to it where you're just like, your eyes, your brain is like, that's not real. And you know it's not real. But I mean, like, you know, when even the Hulk, who's CGI and does look like a big beefy idiot sometimes, when he hits the other thing that's not real in the picture, it seems like there's weight to it and it's happening. It doesn't seem like there's a weird squash or a stretch to it, like an overreaction. I thought that was distracting. It just starts seeming
video gamey. Yeah, it just starts like when they're flipping around that much.
It's like a little too fast. It's a little too rubbery.
I was glad they did it mostly when they're that opening battle like on the island. So and they're all like gods or whatever, weird Amazonians or something. So at least you could kind of. She definitely toned it down a bit when she was like fighting soldiers and stuff. But, like, I mean, or they did at least, and she was just kind of cutting loose. But so that was tough. And then another weird thing, and we kind of touched on it with like just the grittiness. I always like more, but it was just crazy because you see the two battles in the sense of like, and this works for all movies too. I feel like when you're doing lots of computer graphics and action stuff, or how much better it works when it's like, because there's like a night battle at the end, I guess, when it's more like dark and everything's dark and everything looks so much better. As opposed to when they're battling in daylight. Yeah. And then to me, it's all like, you know, Star Wars is great with that as a comparison because it's like how stupid the Phantom Menace battles look and stuff. Because everything takes place in sunshine and stuff. And just like when you put that much computer crap in sunshine, it just looks even dumber, you know? Because you got like fake sunlight coming in on a fake robot on a fake foot. And then like everything just looks fake. But like in the dark with like dirt and stuff, it makes it. Yeah. You could just have like soldiers there and then like one crazy chick that's tearing it up and it doesn't look quite as absurd, you know?
Yeah. And I think like that's interesting that you feel that way because like going back to just practical effects, you know, early 80s when everything on the screen had to be there. Yeah. You know, like even like those old school special effects guys were always like less light. You know, shoot it from this side. We got to put more fucking KY on it. We got to goop it up. Like put the shadow on it because like you don't want to show everything. When you show everything, you can see it. I mean, you can see that's a thing in the case of a practical effect, but it's not that's not a breathing living
because nothing in real life looks that bright. You know?
Right, and especially with CGI. I think it's better now, but. It used to be like everything was, and especially with HD, like everything, you know, that image is like super high definition, and super colorful and popping and stuff. And it doesn't take into account, like when a thing is really there and people are really reacting to it, there's inherently a different quality to that interaction than if it's something that's just added. And if a camera is there of any type and it is seeing that thing and there's distance between the lens and the thing that's really there, then the atmosphere in between it necessarily has an impact on how you see it, and the light and the stuff. And no matter how well you do it, if it's too sharp or it's too real or whatever, because you can, you know, that's what we do. Everything's super real. Right. Then it doesn't seem real. Yeah. You know, it's hard to buy.
Yeah, it's tricky stuff. You think like movie directors getting paid billions of dollars would take that obvious. Yeah. It's weird. Like I don't claim to know anything about making a film, but it just like seems so obvious to me. It's like just make the battle take place at like, you know.
And again, it's like stuff that
a few hours later when it's
like the special effects guys were saying 35 years ago. It's no different, but they still don't have the lesson. You know. I thought was weird, like the battle scene in the like. Her sort of powers ramp up as you go, and I think maybe it's because it seemed like I don't know if they made it. They didn't make it totally clear to me, but I think I guess she's the daughter of Zeus somehow, and the queen of the Amazons, but they didn't raise her to know that. So I think
she's like an actual goddess.
Yeah, I think she's always been stronger, but I don't think she had any reason to sort of test the boundaries of that strength or Testa or any of that stuff. Like until she gets out and is met by these increasing challenges.
Yeah.
So her powers ramp up as you go until you get down into the confrontation actually in the village, and there's that sniper. And she just like vaults 3 stories in the air and destroys a steeple.
That's what
church.
I mean. I was kind of like, well, you could do that? What?
Yeah. And what the amazing part is, like, everybody's just kind of cool with it. Nobody's like, whoa.
Yeah. That was another note I made. I was like, nobody's like really.
What the fuck? Like, I can see like some of the other stuff, like when she just grabs a guy by the forearm and chucks him across the room. You know, like that's the sort of thing where like a normal human person later might be like, well, I've been drinking and. You know, maybe it wasn't what I thought it was. You know, it's still within the scope of possible. Yeah. But that's not possible. And not a single person was just like, what the fuck?
Out of here. Yeah. Like, let's just send her.
That was, to me, like, everyone was like, hey, good job.
Yeah. She's
nobody was like, right. What are you?
Yeah, it was more like, all right, I guess the dame's okay. We can let her stick around.
She's clearly better than any 15 of us. So I guess she's good enough.
She just took on the entire army. And like the scene where she's got the shield and she's just basically running the trenches of World War I and everyone's shooting, which is total crap too because everybody was shooting at her from the same angle.
Yeah.
It's like, why would everybody be hitting her shield at the same time? But anyway, that I can suspend that belief.
Yeah, and I like that, you know, in that scene, like, she gets kind of pinned down. Yeah. Even she is learning the lesson of just how terrible it is and how sort of intractable the enemy is and how sort of hopeless it is in so many ways. And trench warfare was all of those things. And warfare is awful. Yeah. And she needs other people to come behind her, as powerful as she is, to really not to do anything more at that point, I think.
Right.
And that's like an interesting sort of like I like that you get to see that and they don't just like beat you over the head with it. You just you get to see it and you move on to the next thing. But then she moves on to the next thing and she's like knocking down a church single handedly. And I was just like.
I did love, how like that was probably one of the big takeaways that I enjoyed, even though like a lot of it didn't add up, and I was like, whatever. But like just seeing her like as a character, like walking into like the ballroom with the sword in her mouth, like she just wanted to fucking destroy like every situation. It's like everything was like not subtle at all. It was just like just charge, blah, like just see her destroy it in a like a very guilty pleasure action movie way. It was really cool for those reasons, just seeing her like take a whole scene and just destroy it single-handedly. So that was pretty cool. But the God thing, maybe you can help me with that. And maybe it was just because my kid was yapping through the whole thing, and I was like, "What? I'm trying not to," because like that was her whole motivation, was that she wanted to get in there and figured that Ares, the god, was the reason for the war.
Instigator, yes,
and
the driving force.
Yeah, and then so she wanted to kill this guy. She
wanted to kill the German. I can't remember what his name was. The German officer who was working with Dr. Poison. It wasn't the Kaiser, but it's set towards the end of the war. Yeah. They're in talks for a ceasefire. And to end the war, but he doesn't believe it. He thinks that if they keep fighting, they can win, even though the rest of the officers in the German military think it's a lost cause.
She thinks it's him. That's right, and then
she thinks it's him, and we are supposed to believe that's him, but it's not.
She kills that sucker, and she's sad because then nothing ends. But then it turns out the old man that was sort of helping him, he's like, I am the god! And
then he just like...
Then it's like a holy battle going on. Wow, there's an actual battle. And that was like cool and all, but it was like, whatever. Then it gets into that kind of gods fighting gods thing. Yeah, I was on the team with Spud there. That was Spud from Trainspotting.
It was, yeah.
So I was like, whatever, man. Spud's got this. But then I was confused because she does kill him finally. But clearly doesn't end all war. Did he say there's a reason?
The point of it, the interesting thing about Chris Pine's character, Steve Trevor, is he's sort of the point of view character, and he is kind of sorry. He is sort of something just happened in the wide world of sports.
Are we winning?
Yeah, Clemson is trailing Syracuse. In case anybody wants to know. he's sort of the point of view character, and he is sort of smarmy and smirky and imperfect. But it's through him, like there's a scene where she's killed Ares, and she's like, nothing has stopped, you people are still trying to murder each other, and he, like, I think he explicitly says, it's not Ares. I think Ares even says, I didn't have to, I didn't make anyone do anything, I just sowed a few seeds, and I just sowed the seeds, and they gladly sort of tended them and grew the plants. And Steve Trevor kind of says the same thing. It's like, we're not perfect. Why they're still doing it? Because we're not you. We're not all good, and
we're all beautiful
none
goddesses.
of us, and not all of us are, and none of us are good all of the time, and we don't deserve you to save us. But it's not about what, I think he says something like, it's not about what people deserve, it's about what you believe is right. And that is the lesson that she has to learn. And
then Ares is fine with that too. When she kills him, he's like, "Yeah, you got me, but World War II is gonna happen anyway." Is that the kind of thing?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, like she kills him, and I think she's
just wrong about her own religion story.
Yeah, basically. She didn't know.
I think that just says what the bottom line really.
The movie lets you believe that the God Killer is this super powerful sword, and it's not. Yeah. It's just a sword. She's the God Killer, and her mother and the other Amazons have hidden that from her entire life.
Yeah. Well, then she killed him, but so by their rule, that should have ended all wars.
Yeah, but they also don't understand, quote unquote, man's world at all, because they're not a part of it. And she doesn't understand it because she's not even human. She's a half god, half immortal Amazon. So, so I would say, I would absolutely say it's like a 3 stars out of 4. It's a very good movie.
Yeah, I think it was it's
not transcendent.
Yeah, let's not get excited. It's still a superhero movie in the sense that it was entertaining and it was fun.
It's nothing, as far as, super women go. It's nothing we haven't seen other characters do. It was well done.
Yeah.
And she was great in the role, but I don't think it was this...
Yeah.
I don't think that it is somehow more meaningful than an Iron Man movie. Or, it doesn't do anything any better or teach us anything in the viewing.
Maybe inspire more girls. Maybe more. Marvel definitely could have more.
Yeah, Marvel's going to have a Captain Marvel movie soon. The Lady Captain Marvel. Set in the 90s.
Really? Yeah. Captain Marvel? I don't even remember what she looked like.
Well, she's got a faux hawk now.
Yeah.
And stars on herself.
Ooh, there you go. Alright, well, we'll see. I'm a Marvel dude, so I'll be willing to jump. Cool. Well, and a little too long, maybe. Which I think all these superhero movies, to me, I feel like they could trim. And it's always the action sequences where they could trim a little bit out.
Yeah.
Like the SpiderMan movie you said just saw, just to touch on that real quick. Homecoming, I loved that. I thought it was real good.
Movie.
And but 2.5 hours long. It's like,
a little long.
Come on, man! You could have really just trimmed one less bus falling from a building.
Or maybe not have written in the 2 shockers. You could just have the one dude. And not have him murder somebody.
Plenty of shit they could trim out of these movies. It's weird. I'm just surprised that the world is totally willing to just.
Well, speaking of other movies, Blade Runner 2049 just came out, and it's almost 3 hours long.
Really?
It's real close.
I know.
I hear that the review I heard is, it's a lot like the first one in that it's a bit of it's a meander.
Awesome, good.
And I hear it's good.
Go see it.
But
I want to check it out.
Maybe just people's sort of willingness to sit.
Yeah, it's cool. This shit's all overpriced anyway. You might as well get your money's worth. Until I had a kid, I love a long movie. Get your money's worth, dive in, see the whole story. Maybe not like Lord of the Rings long, but it's just weird for superhero movies. I just feel like they're kind of so
bang, 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 bang,
closer to a comedy almost, where it's just cool, let's get our little fix and get you out before you realize that a lot of shit doesn't add up.
Dude, you.
Why you're still sitting there going wait a minute, why does that guy even do it? And I'm already starting to pick apart all all the holes in it or whatever. But all right, well, I think we're gonna wrap up with a quick run through of some real life superheroes. If you still good on time.
Yes, I am. I'm pulling up the notes on the real superheroes.
All right, so
you are not gonna believe this. SHIT. Oh, I spelled it.
Ooh. According to listverse.com, which I do believe is a real website and not just a website.
It's a little clickbaitish.
I think, yeah, that was the word I was looking at. I think it is very clickbait, and who knows? But it had a list of 10 real-life superhero stories, and these goons are out there amongst us in real life, and they have done things that they believe are very superhero-worthy, and they have costumes. Working hard out there. I don't know when this came out exactly. Do you see a date anywhere?
March 24th, 2013.
2013. All right. Yeah. So some of these might have been knocked off.
They might still be active, or they could have been murdered by their nemesis.
Cool. So I thought we'd read through some of them and get your initial opinions if you think that they're a worthy hero or not, Craig. And we'll share with you guys.
Here's a spoiler for you. They might all be wackos.
Yeah, I think it's probably a safe bet. And if nothing else...
Maybe well-intentioned wackos. But wackos
they really need better hobbies, maybe. But who knows? They're trying.
They're trying to make the world a better place.
Maybe it isn't better, than just working at Target or something. You know, they're giving something back.
That's right.
Well, we're going to count it down from 10, and I'm going to try to read through these without stuttering and stumbling all through it. So, Night Warrior coming in at number 10. Our buddy Night Warrior, and they do list that their secret identity is Roger Hayhurst, so not so secret identity.
Greater Manchester, UK.
So I guess he was cool with that, and according to his costume, he wears like a bluish outfit.
He's got some blue triangle, black triangle, big gloves going on.
Can you cite like his favorite? You think like being a band where you can hear their influences?
Who do you think guess his favorite is maybe he reminds me of this character called the Blue Shield, who is probably no one has ever heard of, but the costume is similar to it, or maybe something from the old Atlas comics in the late 70s. Which is to say, generic and weaselly.
Ooh,
he's a little weaselly guy.
Dude.
He's not mega muscles.
Manchester, I'd say he's an Oasis fan. Would be my
He's a gardener by day and a max crime fighter by night. It says
it is, and that's the tagline for the Night Warrior, a 19-year-old. So he's a kid.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, presumably he's grown out of this. It's been a number of years, but maybe not.
His self-proclaimed superpower is a supernatural desire to make the world a better place. Wow.
I mean, that's admirable.
Yeah. His main target is drunk people who get a little too rowdy as they leave the pubs. Definitely not an Oasis fan. I take that back.
No.
When there aren't enough people fighting each other, he hands out food to the homeless people.
You cannot.
In Manchester.
Yeah, he looks crazy, but...
And although he doesn't have any combat training, gadgets, weapons, or identifiable means of protection, he does have a flashy costume that we just made fun of. Yes. And sometimes that's exactly what you need to get people's attention. According to him, when people see him coming, it does tend to stun them into silence. Night Warrior lives with his mother. What a good boy.
Unpredictable.
So
she probably sewed the costume.
What does he do? He just targets drunk people? So
I think
he calms them down?
Yeah, it doesn't say. I suspect when they're getting a little rowdy, it's like, hey, break it up, boys. Come on.
Oh, you fucking dickhead.
And they'll probably know who he is. Like, Roger?
I'll do it. Oh, go back to the house, you weak cunt. Sorry. Anyway, all right. Any other thoughts on the Night Warrior? I think he's a solid 10 spot.
He's a 10.
That's probably why he's at the number 10 spot.
Yeah.
Mr. Extreme.
Probably loves the band.
Yeah. His favorite band is Extreme. From San Diego, California. Definitely loves Extreme. His secret identity, he's like, it's a secret, you dummies. I'm not telling you that. Honestly, if there's any city that needs a superhero, it's probably San Diego. That's the words of the website, not me.
Yeah.
Especially after the police department is downsized in 2012, leading to an increase in crime. And Mr. Extreme might not be the hero San Diego deserves, but he's the hero San Diego puts up with. A security guard in the daylight hours. Once the sun goes down, he suits up in shine guard's cape, army helmet, and identity protection goggles, then vigorously strolls into the crime-ridden sidewalks of the East Village. Mr. Extreme has been working for about 7 years now, armed with a taser, handcuffs, and 3 cans of pepper spray.
Can you just tase someone and handcuff them? Isn't that
Do
illegal?
that. Even if you are dressed like a superhero.
And even if the person did just like steal a wallet, I don't think you can just tase somebody. You could kill them.
Oh, man. While he doesn't get into a whole lot of action, he has instigated several citizens' arrests throughout his career. So
He's sort of wearing a helmet. He's got some goggles that maybe look like an owl.
he just looks like a shitty security guard. to me.
Yeah, he's got tape across his vest. His chest protector. It looks like it says Extreme Justice League Evil Suppression Unit. And then it's got like pictures of maybe have you seen her milk cartons type pictures on it. Maybe missing persons.
On
He's
his
wearing
chest? Is that
yeah,
what that- oh.
yeah. Those little they look like I don't know, like high school pictures of someone who's been gone for 30 years. He's got like the elbow pads. He's got some yellow and gray fatigues on, and some studded wristbands.
Solid number 9.
Solid number 9, yeah. Now my favorite.
Yeah, I think this guy should be a little higher too. I've got a soft spot for the Aussies, and this guy is from Perth, the west side of Australia. His secret identity is a secret as well, but people like to call him Wheel Clamp Man.
Or what we might call a boot.
Yes, the path of a hero is never black and white. It is uncertain. It's an uncertain world filled with lesser evils and shades of gray, because sometimes the duty of a man requires him to go outside the law to prevent crime.
Boy, does it.
Or commit one. This is the path of Wheel Clamp Man, one of the darker shades of gray in the colorblind spectrum. In fact, his main heroic activity is a full-fledged crime. He patrols Perth with an angle grinder and cuts wheel clamps off cars that have been illegally parked.
Yeah, he does.
Dressed in a skin-tight green leotard, rainbow socks, and a glue-on mustache. Oh, it's not even his real mustache. Wheel Clamp Man has only been working in the area for a relatively short time, but motorists are grateful for his help in helping them avoid a $130 fine. So yeah, he goes and frees people that if does he feel like it's unjustly clamped, or is he just like
I think
fuck
he
that?
just feels like it's not cool that people get clamped at all.
I'm down with that. That isn't cool, man.
Yeah.
Just like write me
Even
a
if they have
ticket or
broken the rules.
that's not cool. I'm down with Wheel Clamp Man. I hope he's still going strong out there. Maybe we can do a follow up on that.
Man, Wheel Clamp Man. If you're out there, hashtag Wheel Clamp. Get it out there. And if you're out there, somehow contact us through the webpage, through the Facebook page.
Yeah,
we would love to have you on the show.
Totally.
We won't tell people who you are.
And maybe grow a real mustache.
Yes.
Or not. Maybe it's a better secret identity. He does have to kind of hide his identity a little more.
He's breaking the law.
Yeah.
So
I like that. More vigilante.
in the name of justice.
Number 7.
The Dark Guardian.
I am Dark Guardian, also known as Chris Pollock.
I am Chris.
He hangs out in Manhattan, New York, the Big Apple, where all the superheroes seem to really
the real
thrive. The people who like superheroes and the people who look like superheroes usually sit on opposite sides of the cafeteria.
That's offensive.
But Chris Pollock's first major victory was being both of those people at the same time. In a costume reminiscent of leather biker suit and backed by years of martial arts training, he actually looks the part, and he seems to be making a dent in the crime. At least the obvious crime around Washington State Park. This video shows him confronting a drug dealer, and it's actually sort of inspiring. Is this the one you watched?
It is the one I watched. I don't know that I'd call it inspiring. Maybe foolishly gutsy.
Yeah, I didn't
Because
know
the dude was
actual
at least 6 inches taller than him.
Yeah.
And probably outweighed him by 30, 40 pounds.
What did he do? He just like...
He just watched... He's got a costume here in the picture. In the video, he sort of is wearing like a costume, but not a mask and stuff.
Yeah, he's just wearing like a sleeveless hoodie and like a
he's
shitty
got more
Batman
like
mask in this.
Yeah, in the video, he's got more of like racing leathers on, kind of a thing. And he just walks up to dude. He's got a guy with a camera following him. He's like, "Hey, you gotta go. you're selling drugs in the park. You gotta go. And the guy's like, fuck you, man. You're no cop. Get the fuck out of here. And he's like, that's cool. And he calls the cops, and then the dude leaves.
Just stall here until
but the dude kind of confronts him to try and get him to run off. And he's like, dude, we're filming you right now. You got audio. You're on camera. We've seen you do it. Get out of the park. So, I guess that's...
It's crime fighting.
During
his crime fighting career, Dark Guardian has helped break up many fights and prevents muggings. And as the video showed, he's waging a personal war on drug dealers. It doesn't sound that dramatic, but apparently one tactic he uses is to scout out the area, identifying a dealer, and he sneaks up behind them and he grabs their ass.
And he yells, "This is a drug-free park!"
Whoa! Then he gets shot in the face. Good luck, Dark Guardian. Noble cause. Let's go back to Australia for number 6. Captain Australia.
Mm-hmm.
It's Captain Australia. And my identity's a secret too.
That's right.
And he hangs out in Brisbane with gardening gloves.
Which part of the country is Brisbane in?
Northern.
You've been there.
Nah, I haven't been there.
Oh.
That's I'm a little rusty, but Queensland maybe.
Costume's real cool. It's like a variation of Captain America's.
Yeah, he's kind of got the ampersand sign blazing on his chest. Captain Australia is waging a one-man war against crime in Fortitude Valley. And in his day life, he's a stay-at-home father too, but a desire to clean up Queensland. There you go. So he's cleaning up Queensland's streets, and has motivated him to put together a makeshift costume and patrol some of the seedier parts of Brisbane.
That seems safe.
Yeah.
For a father of 2 to be fighting.
Yes, sorry, I'm going out. Dude just going to the bar.
Just smashed in water.
Captain Australia takes a preventative approach to crime, figuring that the sight of him will be enough to deter most would-be criminals from acting on their insatiable dark urges. And sometimes it works. He claims to have stopped a rape by showing up on the scene and scaring away 2 men who had been harassing a drunk woman.
Way to go.
Nice.
Captain Australia. Yeah. And good sewing skills on your costume.
Stopped a rape.
It's wrong, dude.
Yeah, his costume's pretty rad. So he's definitely probably the best looking one, maybe. Nah. Never mind, I take that back. Alright, Captain, or number 5. We got Shadow. Secret identity, Ken. And he's from the UK. And, eschewing the pomp and flash of typical superhero costumes, 33-year-old Ken, Andre, took a different approach to vigilante justice, the way of a ninja.
Yeah, he did.
He calls himself Shadow and spends up to 4 nights a week out around his home in Somerset, stopping drug dealers and muggers. In the few years he's been doing this, he says he stopped several dozen crimes. And out of all the people on his list, Shadow is the only real-life superhero with anything even resembling a superpower. A Batman-esque hearing aid that amplifies sound.
Nice, Shadow.
What? Ken has been studying the martial art ninjutsu since he was a child and stopped a carjacker one time by literally throwing nunchucks at him. In his own words, I tied him to the lamppost using his own legs and called the police.
How do you tie someone with their own legs? It doesn't make sense.
Neither does any of this.
That's true.
Then
it's almost like he was an imaginary.
I gave him wet willies until the police showed up.
It's like,
I'm the Shadow. And I hear everything. Alright, coming in on the home stretch, we got number 4.
Can I take this one?
Do it, yeah.
Man, he looks awesome. Number 4, we have Thanatos, I guess it would be. His identity is secret, and he hails from Vancouver, Connecticut. Not Vancouver, Connecticut.
The Canada. One above it.
Yeah. In Greek mythology, Thanatos was the demon personification of death, which is a strange name for someone who wants to spend their time helping others. But that's what a Vancouver man did 3 years ago when he decided to become a real-life superhero, wearing a black trench coat, black hat, and a green skull mask. Thanatos takes a community involvement approach to vigilante justice, passing out food and clothing to people on the street, even though he still keeps an eye out for any crimes that cross his path.
It just helps out the homeless, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I am death. Here, have this.
He's got himself a cool mask and some skull motifs. He wears a tie. He's got a comedian button. Anybody who's ever read The Watchmen will know what I'm talking about there. So, yeah.
I made you some biscuits. Thanks, I guess.
Have some food. Oh, get away!
Are you gonna
You're a crazy person.
No, I'm here to feed you. Thank you, Thanatos. That's Thanatos.
You're saying it wrong.
Are you from Connecticut?
No, the other one. Canada.
Phoenix Jones.
Phoenix
Phoenix Jones coming in at number 3. Let's see what Phoenix Jones is looking like.
It's good.
Let's see.
It sort of looks like an adapted, really expensive adaptation of a good quality Batman costume.
Yeah, fake muscles and everything. It's got this picture of this dude looking next to him like, who's this asshole?
Thanks for showing up here to the rally and make us all look like idiots, Phoenix.
Yeah, from Seattle, Washington comes in number 3, Phoenix Jones, also known as Benjamin Fodor. Oh, that's his.
Isn't that the name of the place where Thomas the Tank Engine lives? Fodor?
Thomas the Tank?
Thomas the Tank Engine? Sodor.
Hodor?
Sorry.
Hodor?
Hodor? It's some sort of odor.
Yeah. Of all these real-life superheroes, Phoenix Jones has probably received the most media attention, especially after being arrested in 2011 for pepper spraying 2 women. He patrols the area.
Way to go, Phoenix.
Wait a minute. Let's see if
that's just harassment.
Yeah, that's not cool. He patrols the area around Seattle and claims that he was motivated to don a mask and cape after his car was broken into, and none of the bystanders tried to stop it from happening. Knife wounds, gunshots, street fights, it's all in a day's work for Phoenix Jones. The 22-year-old is also a professional MMA fighter. Is that some kind of ultimate fighting channel?
Yes.
Which probably...
Mixed martial arts.
Yeah. Surprise. Which probably comes in handy as he tracks down criminals. Also, unlike a lot of other people who pretend to be superheroes, Phoenix's costume actually has a bulletproof vest. So, let's see, unlike other superheroes, his is actually bulletproof vest and armored plating. So it's not all just fake muscles.
He is out to do
You can't
stuff.
blast Phoenix. Now you know just to stab him in the neck.
That's right, right in his face. Just aim for his mouth. That'll kill him.
That'd be terrible if I just tipped off the murderers of how to kill
Phoenix Jones. Yeah, his nemesis, Doctor
Neck Slasher.
Neck Slasher's like, you're mine now. Thanks for 10.
But they don't say why he pepper sprayed 2 girls. It sounds like he kind of did that.
Just out of cruel.
He got arrested.
He got bored. He was like, I don't like the look of you two. I'm gonna pepper spray you. Yeah.
They're like, nice costume, jackass. And he's like,
what if you don't? What do you mean you don't want to go out with Phoenix?
I'm a damn hero. Yeah, sounds great. All right, coming in at number 2, Flashing Blade. He's the Flashing Blade and only the Flashing Blade. Nobody knows who he is. Also from the UK. A lot of UK in here.
A lot of people from not the States. You would think if there were a bunch of crazy people, it would be us.
The Flashing Blade has only been involved in 1 incident so far. But it was a bizarre one.
Yeah.
A gang armed with chains and knives attacked 2 detectives in South Shields in 2007. The detectives were unarmed. But out of nowhere, a man leaped into the fight swinging a katana. Is that how you pronounce that?
A katana? Some sort of sword, right?
I remember a game where I would chop people up, and one of the weapons you could choose was a katana.
Well, there you go.
And shouting, "Leave him alone, he's a police officer!" The sword caught one of the gang members on the arm, and the rest of them turned and ran, according to the report. After the detectives were safe, the Flashing Blade disappeared into the night and was never seen again. The only description the police got was that he was white and he was in his 40s. He had an awesome mustache, so be on the lookout.
Man, that just sounds more to me like some dude was hanging out in his living room, polishing his sword, and he saw some trouble and he ran outside.
Just got done watching Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. I think his motivations were probably a little different than Phoenix Jones.
Yeah. Oh, so there's no picture of him. Yeah.
No one knows what he looks like.
Yeah, that makes sense. Damn. That's pretty hardcore. I guess that earns number 2.
And first on the list...
He cut the whole arm off, or just a side?
I think he just caught him in there. Just nicked him.
Was it like an Obi-Wan?
Oh, Jesus, this dude's crazy.
Was it like an Obi-Wan move? Or
We're just trying to beat up some cops. We're out of here.
My friend doesn't like you either. Wow. Number 1.
Oh, it's going to be good.
You want to read it?
Sure. The Chinese Redbud Woman. Ooh. Identity secret. Personal Gotham, Beijing, China. There are plenty of female superheroes that are just as deserving of being on this list as any of the men above, but few superheroes, man or woman, paint such a heartwarming picture as Chinese Redbud Woman. She has been spotted several times in Beijing wearing a mask and cape and handing out food to homeless people in the streets. Are these people vigilantes, putting their lives on the line for others, or are they just making a difference any way they can? That's a good question, Listverse.
Yes. List what?
Listverse?
Listverse?
Listverse,
that's it.
Listverse?
Yes, that was all courtesy of listverse.com. They probably stole it from somebody else.
Yeah, but 10 outrageous real-life superheroes on Listverse.
The Chinese Redbud Woman. Again, maybe, because the other superhero did the same thing, and maybe this is the female icon we're all looking for.
That's right. Maybe she's the real Gal Gadot.
Yeah, true. Or she could be a cameo in the next Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah.
But either way, I think it's cool. I gave it to her, the number 1 spot.
Yep. Those are some, like, you are a particular kind of wackadoo when you're like, I am going to fight some crime and I'm going to do it in a costume.
Yeah. You could just go out and, I guess maybe it stops like the cops from blasting you quicker if you're just like,
I guess, or
in this.
It may just be like legitimately useful for hiding your identity because you're doing something you're probably not supposed to be doing.
True, but if you just wore like a ski mask, then a cop would just totally think you're a criminal too and blast you.
That's true. Yeah. So, yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, they seem to be doing good. Phoenix Jones, of course, the one American on the list, is the one who seemingly has just overdone it and maced somebody for no reason.
2 like lovely girls in Seattle.
Just because they were making fun of his little fanny pack that he keeps
nice
macing.
package, Phoenix. I guess it's cold in that uniform. Shut up! I'm a hero! Like, oh, this didn't go anything like I planned.
Yeah, I love superheroes. I plan on dressing up as one for Halloween.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are into doing it at comic conventions and other things, and that's cool.
Yeah.
I cannot see
going out on the streets. You think you could take Amoeba Man out onto the streets and maybe
I could
do it
if I wanted to busk and make money.
But to fight crime,
pity.
Maybe go down to like Broadways and start some shit.
I have no martial arts training or special gadgets.
Tear some crime doers up.
I'm not especially strong or skilled at all.
Just get a hearing aid.
I could just get a hearing aid. Like, I hear you. I hear you. I guess I could just walk up to drug dealers and be like, "This is a drug free bar. I heard you, man. I heard you having. I got this hearing aid. And then I just get stabbed.
Yeah. Like, oh crap. Then you're just dying in the street wearing a superhero costume.
Yeah. Then you're just an idiot. Because really, like, in real life, there's so many reasons why you wouldn't do that. Like, Phoenix Jones may be wearing body armor, but if he gets shot point blank in the face, he's not coming out of it okay.
Yeah.
Regardless of what he's wearing.
End badly.
Yeah. I mean, it's just nuts.
Oh, man.
But, God bless them. They want to make a change for the better.
Yeah, their hearts are definitely in the right place. Most of them.
In some universe, in some reality, out there somewhere, they really are superheroes. And
if the story's true, maybe one at least confirmed less raped person
Exactly.
because of I forget which one it was.
I mean, like, just anyone's presence at all, in many cases, would probably deter.
That's what
a
some of
crime.
them were saying. They're just like, if
so
I just interrupt something, no matter what I'm wearing, it's probably going to stop this from happening.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, just like most crimes, you would think are crimes of opportunity or circumstance.
Yeah.
So if you're just there to prevent that opportunity, then they won't happen.
There you go.
That's right. That doesn't make for a
True
really comic
story of the most boring comic ever.
How'd you stop this one, Batman? I was just there.
I'm the interrupter.
I was there.
That's going to be what I'm going to...
That's right.
I am the interrupter. I just kind of see shit going
My
down.
utility belt has a juice box.
I just
Because I get thirsty out here on the
walk
trail.
up to people and interrupt things.
That's right. I'm like, what are you doing? Hey, guy. Hey,
Mind
guy.
your own business.
Guy, what are you doing, guy?
Interrupter. You've been interrupted.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. Well, we'll probably save Ant-Man 2 for a whole episode of
think
itself.
so,
but you
yeah.
got any major predictions? You looking forward to that?
I am. I think that it will be. I hope that it will be like truly less of a sequel to Ant-Man, so much as it is an introduction of the Wasp. Like, I like Ant-Man a lot. I think Paul Rudd was good. I really enjoyed the first movie a lot. But it would be cool if they took their opportunity in their sequel to make it another origin story, because you don't get to do that too much. There's nothing
that half and half thing,
and just like really just set her up to be in the comic books. I mean, she very much for a very long
cool
time.
Female one.
And early on, she was very much just like just a woman. Just like a flighty girl who was almost just comic relief, airheaded. But then, like, by the time the 80s rolled around, she was the leader of the Avengers, and she was, like, what got them through some of these really big story arcs and stuff, and a very strong character. So it'd be cool to see her get her own origin movie within the context of a sequel, and it'd be more about her. And
who's the actress?
Evangeline Lilly, I think her name is. She was on Lost, which I didn't watch.
Anything else notable?
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
She was pretty good in Ant-Man, and I think it would be cool just to see her get to have like an equal opportunity in a sequel to have her own first movie, and he sort of take a back seat. Like, that would be pretty cool. So
totally cool, man. When's it come out?
Oh, jeez.
Next year.
Next year, I think they're filming it now, if I'm not mistaken. So next year sometime.
Assuming nobody leaves or have to start over.
Right. The director doesn't walk away or anything.
Cool.
So.
Well, we'll be there, and we will give you the opening night review.
That's
maybe.
right.
That'll be a good one.
Maybe with Paul Rudd.
Yeah, he'll be.
We've got some feelers out there.
Throwing it out there, Paul.
That's right.
We know you're a big fan. So. Cool. Well, I guess that wraps up superhero talk for this episode of the Pretend Podcast.
Yep, it's been a while since our last recording. I think we'll maybe wrap up a first season and start planning a second one.
Yeah, somewhere around here. So thanks for listening. Drop us a line at the Pretend Podcast at gmail.com. Be sure to comment on the Facebook page. Go on over there. We'll have a bunch of tidbits and stuff we've talked about. You can check out further content there, and also drop us a line. Instagram, the Pretend Podcast is there. Getting feelers for episodes up there. And do drop us a line if you want us to cover a topic that you think would be good, and whether it be a movie, an album, anything you think.
A theme.
We would love to hear your input. Until then, what would be a good sign off? What does Stan Lee always say?
Excelsior!
Excelsior! Catch you next time.